Okay, we're at 7 o'clock. We have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order and start with the remote meeting preamble. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access the meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting is being recorded by HCAM. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you've been recognized by the chair. We'll confirm attendance of the Conservation Commission members and staff. Please respond with a present if you're on the call. Melissa Rico.
Present.
Janine LeBlanc. Janine hasn't joined yet. Ed Harrow.
Present.
Ted.
Ted Barker Hook is present.
Jim.
Present.
And this is Jeff Barnes, and we'll confirm members of the conservation staff. Kim.
I am present.
Anna.
Present.
And Joe Orzel with Lucas Environmental.
Present.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. We have a long agenda tonight, so we'll jump right in with the work session items. We have no documents for review tonight. The draft meeting minutes for review, March 28th and April 11th of 2023. Did everyone get a chance to review those? And are there any comments or questions?
Yes, and no question.
Great. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of March 28th and 11th or April 11th, please?
So moved.
And
a
I'll second
All-
Ted.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, Janine is coming in now. And just bear with me for a second. I'm just admitting people in the waiting room. Okay. So we have the town of Hopkinton and the 26-2 Foundation, 53 East Main Street, a request for a 3-year extension permit. Kim, any comments on this one? I think they're just still in the design phase of the project, correct?
That is correct. Yep. I don't think I have any comments. The commission considered this application a few years back and issued the order for the crossing, the construction of the bridge in the front of the parcel. So
Right,
I'm
yeah,
okay with
that's-
extending.
Okay, perfect. I think they're still in the fundraising stage, so they need a little bit more time to do that. So I can get a motion to approve the request for the 3-year extension and to have Kim sign on behalf of the members present.
So moved. I'll
That
second.
was- Okay, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Janine, Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Appreciate it.
Regan. Yep, have a good evening.
Thank
Talk
you
to you
as well.
soon.
Good
Okay,
night.
thank
More
you.
easy.
Yeah, this was great. Appreciate it. All right, good night.
Good night. Okay, Eversource Energy, the right of way, request for an extension permit. Do we have someone on the call from Eversource?
Yeah, Becky Weissman with SWCA representing Eversource, and with me is Matt Waldrop with Eversource Energy.
Okay, Becky, how you doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Can we just kind of get like a brief update on the project status for the benefit of the commission?
Matt, did you want to take that or do you want me to? So I
Sure.
can say that the project has not commenced yet, construction, as you may know. We are still waiting on a decision from the Energy Facility Siting Board. Matt, is there anything more you want to add to that?
No, I think that's basically it, Becky. We're still tied up in the citing process with the state, just waiting for them to continue review of the application. The scope of work hasn't changed at all. So yeah, we're just requesting the extension to keep the permit valid with hopes that we'll get the citing board approval, within the year and then start construction thereafter.
Okay, so that sounds good. Thank you. So just to refresh our memory, the scope of work for the town of Hopkinton includes the abandonment of one line in place, the existing line, and then the installation of the new line. Is that correct? That's the current project scope?
Yes, sir, that's correct. The old line would be decommissioned, left in place, and the new line would be going in.
Okay,
In the
Okay, great.
in the cross-country right away. And there's a few street crossings, but it'll be mainly in the right of way.
okay, thank you, Matt. Are there any questions, comments from commission members? It's been a little while since we've heard from you guys on this project.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kim, you're recommending the extension of 3 years for this permit, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, can I get a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second,
And that motion includes Kim to sign on behalf of the members present. And we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. Thank you, Eversource.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you. Hunt 223 Hayden Rose Street. This is another request for a 2-year extension permit. Kim, any summary or update here? Do you recommend this one?
Yep, so this is an order for the expansion of a garage. The foundation of the garage was installed, but the garage itself was not constructed yet. Anna went out to check it out and the site is stable, grass is growing over the area. So I'm recommending issuance.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the commission? If I can get a motion to approve the extension for the 2-year request for 223 Hayden Row, please, and to have Kim sign on behalf of the members present.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim, and I'm an aye, so the motion
Aye.
passes. Okay, Jim's an aye. Brendan Properties, 20 Saddle Hill Road. This is a request for a certificate of compliance. Kim, you want to just give us kind of a quick summary? There was some wildflower areas that were supposed to be planted, which I think has been done, but it's been mowed periodically. Do you want to give us a quick update, please?
Yes, I can. My computer is failing me right now. It disconnected from all of my drives. So I may have to reset or have Anna pull up some of the files here while I figure it out. I can talk you through a verbal and we can figure it out from there. So yes, the order was for the construction of a single family home on Saddle Hill. This was kind of the sister lot to 2022 Saddle Hill Road, which the commission reviewed at its last public meeting. So the houses have been fully constructed for about 2 years. There's lawn, there's grass. As part of the order, the commission had required that there be a wildflower area maintained. Similar to the other lot, the commission requested that pheno rods be placed in front of the wildflower area. But the PIB is situated behind the wildflower area. So the PIB is in, it's established. The pheno rods are in and established, but it appeared that the homeowner had been mowing the wildflower area for a while. The builder, who is the one who's coming for the COC, has provided some plantings. There's eight plants in the wildflower area. They're all native, white aster, mint cardinal flower. And the area has been allowed to grow in a little bit. So I would say kind of half season's growth. I haven't gotten the chance to get out there. I think the plantings went in yesterday. But the homeowner is requesting the certificate of, builder, excuse me, is requesting the certificate of compliance. I think we have some compliance, most of the compliance. This may be kind of this other site where we've learned a lesson that the PIB should really be, you know, landward of whatever area we're trying to preserve, whether that is a wildflower area, then the PIB should really be in front of it. So I guess I would pass it to the commission and for discussion, and I'll see if I can get my computer back and running.
Yeah, so I think we, you know, the 22 Saddle Hill Road we discussed at the last meeting, Kim, is kind of very analogous to that, right? You know, we could have been a little bit more, I guess, diligent, if you will, about, you know, how the PIBs are set, you know, in relation to the actual meadow area that we're trying to preserve. So I think we have to kind of chalk this one up to, you know, as I said, lesson learned. We you know, we kind of know now, you know, best practices on how to address these going forward. If that makes sense to everyone. And I'll open up to questions from commission members.
Sure, Jeff.
Yes,
I agree with you when it comes to fining. I think that unless I misunderstood Kim, I'd like to wait to make sure the stuff that got mowed grows in nicely, the new plantings take, before we grant a COC though. Unless I misunderstood what Kim was saying.
nope, I don't think you misunderstood, Ted. I think you know, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the meadow area is fairly well established at this point. It's just been mowed, right? So it's stable, it's a meadow area, it's growing. The direction to the homeowner is, you know, you can't mow it every 2 or 3 weeks, you know, it needs to be once a season or whatever was dictated in the order of conditions. Correct, Kim?
Yeah, that is the directive to the homeowner. It is an area that has some overgrown grasses and some planting. I think I would stop short of saying it's a meadow area. But
Through the chair, that was going to be my question. Does it look like long grass is growing, or does it look like a meadow is growing? And if it's long grasses, I'd like to wait. That's my own 4.5 cents.
Through the chair, from looking at the pictures that were submitted, it looks like it's just long grass. There's not really wildflowers in there.
Through the chair, this is Joe.
Yes, Joe.
As of my site inspection on July 3rd, it was primarily grasses. There were relatively few wildflowers coming up in the area. And I also noted that, shrubs had been planted, but there was survival of the shrubs was not very good. It was about 50%. But the tree survival was very good.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Oh, if it's the wish of the commission to, give us another couple of months to kind of establish, I think I'm fine with that. Is that kind of the desire of the members? I think that was Ted and Janine's thoughts, but I'll open it up to other members.
To the chair, this is Ed. I want to point out, this is a fairly significant issue with certificates of compliance that get put out and open space gets invaded because there's no markers and things put up appropriately. I think that we really need to be serious about this. I'm not sure what the solution is here, but I agree with the wait and see what happens.
Okay,
And as a note through the chair.
yes, Joe.
Again, as with the 22 Saddle Hill Road site, the type of pheno markers that were used were the ones that were flush with the ground.
Yeah,
The only reason I was able to locate them all is because they had been fiberglass rods had been inserted at each of those locations. So I think going forward, some other type of pheno marker marking these areas would be more appropriate.
agreed. Yep, thank you, Joe. And that was discussed extensively with the abutting property at 22 Saddle Hill Road at the last meeting. So I think that, again, that's a kind of a lesson learned that we didn't specify exactly what we were requiring there. So, okay, I think the direction that the commission wants to go on this is to give it another couple of months to make sure that the area establishes the new plants that were planted over the past few days and wildflowers. So we'll put that out to another meeting in a few months to make sure that's established, and we'll move on. Is Mr. Bemis on the call? Or someone from the trails?
Through the chair.
Yes, Anna.
So Kim's gonna have to restart, so she's gonna have to jump off. Could we break a little bit and maybe ask to go to Ed's reports real quick? Because we don't have to share screen for those, and see if she can get back working.
Sure. So you want to go to the commission member discussion requests, Anna? Is
Yes,
that what you're
please.
suggesting?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so.
And then
Ed,
just
did you
watch
want-
for Kim coming back.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ed, did you want to talk about your discussion requests? So we had,
Sure. Yep.
okay,
Two things, one of which hopefully Jim will speak to as well, and that is the issue behind 147 Wood Street, which had been quite the dump, and it's been largely cleaned up, but there is still, for lack of a better word, trash around the boundaries of the wet area to kind of the southeast corner, as it were, it butts up to Cameron Woods that never was cleaned up, and that's the one issue. I did take pictures, which hopefully I put up so people could see them. And the other issue, Jane Moran called me about a turtle that she rescued on Legacy Farms North, a snapping turtle crossing Legacy Farms North, which Jane Moran picked up. And I don't mean a little toy snapping turtle. I mean one of significant size, and carried it to safety. There is what would appear to be an open bottom box culvert, but it is not full to the brim, but it is full of boulders, making it impossible for any sort of turtle to be able to get through it. And the roadway features significant curbs on both sides, plus fencing that would prohibit a turtle from getting through it. So I'm really curious about this culvert and why it's full of boulders. I went there one of the last rainstorms we had, thinking maybe there was a torrential flow of water coming through there and the boulders were to try to, slow down the flow, and there was merely a trickle going through it. So there are pictures, and I again need to give credit to Jane Moran, who held me by my belt as I leaned out over the precipitous of this thing, try to get pictures on the inlet side because it was impossible to get down there. And my belt held and Jane didn't push me. So you're unfortunately lucky that, or unlucky that I'm still here. So that's my report. And I'm, like I said, I'm mostly curious about the boulders in this culvert.
Through the chair, could I comment regarding 147 Wood Street?
You may, Anna, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. So Kim and I did receive Ed's photos and request to take a look and see what was going on at 147 Wood Street. We contacted the property owner and he allowed us to access and enter the property to take a look, met us out there on site. Yes, there is still quite a bit of trash on the property. He's taken out 2 full dumpsters full of trash already and said he will continue to work on it. He inherited all the trash that was left on the property there. We measured from his existing gravel roadway that goes up behind the existing single family house to be approximately 50 feet off the wetland limit. So we did advise him that to continue working on that site, he would need to file an application with the commission. He agreed. He's already come back in informally and met with Kim and I since we were on the site and is actively working on an application to finish that driveway and propose potentially a structure outside of the commission's jurisdiction on the top of that lot. So there is also some invasives on that property that we discussed with him that the commission would be very favorable to have, some mitigation stuff dealt with the invasive. So he is also open to that. So we're actively in contact with the property owner and looking forward to an application shortly to be in front of you guys.
Thank you, Anna and Kim.
Absolutely, you're very welcome. Unfortunately, I can't comment on the culvert on Legacy Farms North, but Kim may have a little more information on that side of things.
Okay, Kim is rejoining now. So I think we're back in the saddle here. Yeah, I'm Ed, I'm not sure why there are boulders in the culvert. This is Legacy Farms South you're talking about, right?
North, Legacy Farms North. There's a boardwalk there.
Oh, okay, yeah. Up right before the trails. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, not right before, but yes, before.
Okay.
It's just a box culvert with a bunch of riprap, actually. At the bottom.
Yeah, so
And
maybe
generally
we
do
can,
that to cut the acceleration down, but
so Kim, are you with us?
I think I'm back up and
All right.
running. Yes.
Okay. I'll be back. That was a famous quote in the movie that you're probably too young to recognize, but Terminator.
ET said it too.
Huh?
ET also said it. So.
All right, yeah.
Mhm.
No, he said I'll be
Right back.
right back. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think he said, I'll be right here and pointed to the heart.
Oh.
I
That's
think
right.
Ted's right. Yeah.
Okay, so back on track. That's the 80s movie kind of update. But so Kim, you're working with Legacy Farms on the some restoration type stuff, right? Legacy Farms North.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's exactly where this culvert is located, right?
So
On
maybe
the,
we
the
can,
bridge.
yeah. So I guess, maybe we can get them to take a look at that culvert and maybe make it, as part of the mitigation for Legacy Farms North, maybe we can make that, have them look at that culvert, make it a little bit more creature friendly for, for them to kind of crawl through the culvert.
Yeah, and this is Scott Goddard. I'm involved in that restoration work. So
Hey, Scott.
Kim, you and I can maybe connect on that, offline from this and discuss that a little bit further.
Will do.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so Ed, are we good?
Temporarily, we're good.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the new hearings. Dominguez, 128 Hayward Street. This is a notice of intent for an in-ground pool. Hopping and Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 7 o'clock, virtually online. Hear all persons interested in notice of intent filed by Fatima Dominguez to install an above-ground pool and fence with associated site work. The location is 128 Hayward Street, assesses map L36, block 35, lot 0. We have the applicant on the call.
Good evening,
Right.
Amanda Cavalieri with Gary Aaron Hellman representing the applicant. She was unable to attend this evening.
Okay, Amanda, you want to give us a quick overview of the project?
Sure. Thank you. So the applicant's proposing to construct a pool and a 4-foot chain link fence at the back of the property and a 6-foot PVC fence along the abutting sides of the property. This site was before the commission several years back, and we actually have a certificate of compliance to close out an expired order. And any work that was not completed under the old order, we'd be looking to transfer over to this order of conditions should the commission approve it. So the prior activities included demoing an existing house and building the house that you see now in the pictures. And the applicant's looking to construct a 12 by 18 pool, and there was supposed to be a permanent barrier located at the 25-foot with some restoration in the back. I believe the commission's representative with LEC had gone out to the site and didn't indicated that there didn't appear to be any restoration areas that would need to be addressed at this time. But again, we look to the commission for some backup on that. And then the proposed permanent in-place barrier was supposed to be a post and rail fence. And it never got installed. So at this point in time, the applicant would like to put up a 4-foot chain link fence at the back of the property from the pool protection and to keep critters out of the pool from the wetlands. And we didn't put it on this plan, but I believe they'd be open to putting up some sort of markers on the fence indicating the wetland restrictions. So no clippings or anything from maintaining the property would be pushed beyond that area, beyond the fence line.
Okay. Thank you. Joe, did you want to go through your comments, please?
Sure. So I was out on the 3rd to take a look at the site. I did look at the wetland flagging because it wasn't clear based on the application when that was done, but there is wetland flagging done by Goddard Consulting, labeled GC1 through GC11. However, the locations of those flags are not the locations labeled on the site plan. They appear to be the locations of the dots on the site plan. So I recommend that the site plan be adjusted to show the correct, the current delineation and the correct labeling. As far as the flag locations, I was in agreement with those. There was only one spot where I thought between GC 1 and GC 2 that the wetland extended maybe 4 or 5 feet up gradient, but that would not impact the buffer zone on the property where any work is proposed. Also, there were no DEP delineation data sheets submitted. We recommend that those be provided also with information on when the current delineation in the field was done. There was no narrative accompanying the application. Would suggest that the applicant provide a narrative. It did nothing necessarily with great detail, but just describing the type of pool proposed, any construction sequence and proposed access, if there's any excavation required, type of filter, whether and how the pool drainage is going to be addressed, whether there will be a dry well or not. There's no dry well shown on the current plan. There's no erosion control barrier indicated on the current plan. That should be added. Note on the PIB was to be the whether the new fence is apparently going to be proposed as a PIB, as we just noted. As far as filing completeness, the checklist for completeness was not included, and some of the items included on that checklist, such as the closest distance of proposed work to the resource area, the plan colors, were not included as required on the checklist. And lastly, as of the date of the memo, DEP had not yet issued a file number. That's about it.
Okay, I think so. Kim, there was a file number issued for this recently, right?
That is
Yeah.
correct. We do have a file number.
Okay. Okay. So, thank you, Joe. I guess with regard to so just to confirm, Amanda, the pool is being installed in lawn area, correct?
Yes, it's previously disturbed lawn area, and the applicant, at this point in time, they were looking to install an above ground 12 by 18 pool.
What do you mean by at this point in time?
So when we had originally filed, it was still up for discussion with the applicant on whether or not they were going to install a partially below ground or above ground swimming pool. The plans and information that they had sent to us has been all above ground with a concrete pad that would be around it, around the base. So the excavation in that area would be associated with leveling the lawn area to be able to place the pool.
Okay, so so it's an above ground pool at this point,
Yes,
which is being requested, okay. And there will be excavation. That was the second question I had, because if it was just an above ground pool that was being installed on grade, an ECB might not necessarily need to be installed. But it sounds like there is excavation associated with grading and
it would be minimal to get a leveling area for the pool.
Okay.
And then I know Joe had indicated some of the information that was missing from the application. We do have the wetland delineation report. It was from 2015. We can forward that over to Kimberly for her review, as well as the other updates to the plans. We're okay with that also.
Okay, and the fence is going on the edge of where the existing lawn is?
Yes, it'll be going up to the 25, where the permanent barrier was originally proposed.
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah, in that photo, you can see the edge of the lawn. The old erosion control barrier is still in place there. So it was obvious that or apparent that they had not encroached beyond that previous erosion control barrier.
Okay, all right. Okay, so, okay, I'll open it up to questions and comments from the commission.
Through the chair, there was mention that it's a chain link fence to keep critters out of the yard, but how are critters gonna be able to walk across into the lake?
So the critters right now, what they were concerned with originally was the, I guess they have muskrats that have been coming up onto the property. And originally, when they were looking at the possibility of having a proposed in-ground pool, they were in hopes that they could deter the muskrats from coming in and going near the pool area.
Could the fence be raised at the bottom so that critters can still access the lake?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think to Janine's point, you know, if it's raised a few inches so that turtles and stuff can get through and salamanders, but not necessarily muskrats.
Through the chair,
Yes,
depending on how tall that pool is, or if it's partially buried, building code's not gonna allow the fence to be raised for safety reasons. So she'd just have to make sure that she's code compliant with the height of the pool, just as an FYI.
okay. So Amanda, if you can check on that, I mean, this is a pretty small area behind the house. So if code doesn't allow you to raise it, then my sense is that you're not gonna get too many critters coming up there to nest in that small area, but that's kind of my sense. Kim, did you have an opinion on that, or Joe?
Yeah, I think there's potential for some, I mean, if they have muskrats moving through that area, there's potential for some coming through, but I don't think a fence would be a big detriment. It's not so long that the wildlife can't go around it.
And the abutting properties are also owned by the town.
They'll be open there. Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be open there.
Right,
And it-
that's not gonna be developed. It's all vegetated, yeah. Okay,
Through the chair.
yes, Ted.
Joe, I'm wondering about the vegetation there at the back of the property. Are there invasives to be dealt with, or does it look pretty clean?
It looked surprisingly clean. It is grown in well in the area, as far as I could determine, that was to be restored. A lot of sweet pepper bush, quite dense, and I actually didn't see any invasives, although I didn't look extensively for them, but usually they jump out pretty apparently if they're there. So I didn't see any issue with invasives in the area that's grown back.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Through the chair, this is Ed. I'd like to revert back to the fence a second. I do believe that we have in the past, in a situation like this, required that the fence be off the ground a little bit. And so I'm curious if Anna can say what's the issue if the fence is off the ground a few inches as far as the building department is concerned, not a few feet, but a few inches.
Off the top of my head, I don't have the pool fence code required, but if the height of the pool itself is under 48 inches, a fence is required. And then there's parameters of the gap size, the height size, so that it limits access into the pool area.
And I'm shocked that you don't have that all off the top of your head.
Sorry.
Amanda's gonna look into that.
Yep.
Okay, questions or comments from the audience?
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I was just wondering too, Amanda, how were the flags reestablished in the field?
So believe it or not, the flags are still there from when they were originally hung. And they haven't been touched. So again, those are from when it was originally flagged back in 2015.
I guess my recommendation to the commission would be to not confirm the BVW boundary line associated with this filing, just because it is so old. I just don't want you guys to get kind of boxed in.
Yeah, so we can approve it without confirmation of the existing boundary, Kim, right? And there was, to that comment, there was a discrepancy noted by Joe from the flagging that was in the field to that which was on the actual site plan. So I don't, Joe, maybe you can just elaborate on how much of a discrepancy there was. Was it inches, feet,
Yeah, well,
multiple feet?
With the plan sheet that's up now, the line that the dots that are connected by the line
Mhm.
Along the wetland boundary, those appear to be the current wetland flags. Although that is not what is labeled on the plan as the current flags. And those were accurate, except for one flag that I thought was a little bit low, which didn't impact the buffer zone. I did look at locations of all those flags.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we just won't, we still have some Ts to be crossed and Is to be dotted, Amanda.
Okay.
But we can approve this or vote on it, with the boundary not being approved, basically verified by the commission at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay, so if I can get a motion to continue this out to August 29th,
So moved.
and a second.
Second, this is Ed.
Okay, and before we vote, were there any questions or comments from the audience? Sorry, I forgot to ask. Okay, roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed, Jim. And I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you very much.
See you in a few weeks, couple weeks. All right, moving along, Yo sub 7 Cubs Path. This is a notice of intent for an addition. And I just gotta read this one. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 8th at 7, virtually online. Here, all persons interested in notice of intent filed by Han Yo to construct an addition with associated site work. The location is 7 Cubs Path, Assessors Map R2, Block 68, Lot 0. We have the applicant on the call.
And my name's Scott Serrato too. I was the drafter on this project. And Mike O'Neill was the engineer, but he passed away a short time ago. So he was preparing for this meeting, but I'm here in his place. I mean,
So Scott, are you the construction?
No, no, I'm not the construction guy. I mean, I was asked to come here just to let you know, we're looking for another engineer to, I guess maybe to come back and to answer questions, but I mean, I can do the best I can. I'm a PLS. I did the survey and I drafted the plan, but Mike O'Neill was the one that, designed the Caltech system, and he was prepared to, answer the questions you would have. So.
Okay.
Yep.
So, well, sorry to hear about the bad news with your colleague. There are a few outstanding items, so I'm not sure how prepared you are to address these, Scott. There was some, so there's a stormwater basin on site that was under responsibility of the homeowners group that is overgrown and hasn't been addressed.
Mhm.
It appears that the wetland was not fully delineated, and Joe, I don't know if you want to jump in here. We needed some ECB details and PIB details. So there are a few things that are outstanding. Joe, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Regarding the delineation that's present, I thought the flags were pretty good. I, again, just had one spot where I thought between flags 3A and 4A that there might be, the line might bump up 4 or 5 feet. And that's essentially the overflow location for that detention basin, where that bump up would be. The B flagging is actually on the other side of an 8-foot high chain link fence that I couldn't find a way around. So I viewed that through the fence, and based on topo, there's a good slope back there, vegetation, and augers that I did on the property side of the fence. I was pretty comfortable with where those flags were located. The portion that is not delineated is from flag 1A. The wetland, the natural wetland, goes south along west of the detention basin, and that would cast additional buffer zone onto the property in the area of the driveway. A couple other notes. There was a large pile of grass clippings and branches located partly within the wetland near flag 1A, and some other locations of stacked firewood, which were close to maybe 25 feet from the wetland boundary. And also it appeared that at some point historically there had been some understory clearing within the woods in the buffer zone. That was very open understory. I don't know when that occurred. There was no evidence I saw that it was anything very recent. As noted in the review, again, the application did not include the fee calculation sheet or the bylaw supplement to Form 3 sheet or the checklist of completeness. Just recommend that those be submitted for a complete filing. As just a general formatting comment on Form 3, it appeared that all the inland wetland resource areas were checked as being impacted. And it was just, I think the intent was to X those out, but it did throw me off at first. I just want to make a note that they're not proposing any work in the wetland there. It's just the way it was marked. Also, the northeast and northwest corners of the property are actually mapped within the Cedar Swamp ACEC and also within ORW. Would recommend that the actual ACEC boundaries are added to the plan. I believe they're based on an old, not current FEMA flood zone elevation or just a line. It may not be an elevation. Let's see. Just some other clerical items about information, contact information not being included. No delineation forms.
Okay,
No,
so there was some administrative type.
administrative,
things that they need to
right?
clean up.
Now, no construction sequence or proposed access was provided, so I'd recommend at least some kind of a narrative or description of what's proposed for that. Again, that no erosion control barrier on the plan should be revised to include that. And well, actually, there's no detail on the plan. The erosion control barrier is on the plan. It's a little bit difficult to see. I would, it'd be nice if it was a little heavier, different line weight. It kind of blends in with some of the other lines. And again, no PIB location included on the plan. And finally, I looked at the order of conditions for the current pool, and condition number 34 was an ongoing condition that water from the pool should not be discharged on the site. If you look at one of the photos that I submitted, 288 and 289, there's a hose coming out of the filter. I'm just not sure how water is being discharged, and thought that some information on that should be provided.
Okay.
Yep. Hi, this is Han. I'm the owner of the property, and for the regarding the water, if you can show the picture again. Yep. So this is I put this whatever drain tube or whatever pipe on because the past few weeks has been heavy rain, and then my pool water is close to the I have an in-ground pool, and then it's close to the water level, so I just pull it out. This is something new for me because I moved in this house like 4 years ago. So what should I do when the water is high near the ground level? Yep, you can see here. So what should I do? I just let it overflow, or
No, there should be a, in-ground drain, on the property, Mr. Yo, so you're not discharging it directly to the wetland, but it's like an infiltration drain.
Okay.
So we can get you some details on, that, or your consultant can.
Okay.
We just don't want, chlorinated water being discharged into the buffer zone in the wetland. from
I
the
see.
pool
Okay.
Directly,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so Scott, I'm sorry, I don't see what firm you're with, but it's some, there's a few things that need to be addressed here. It looks like you're still kind of trying to identify another consultant to help you out with this.
Yeah.
So I think it probably makes sense to just continue this out to the 29th. Give you adequate time to get another engineer and to address the comments.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. Were there questions or comments from the audience? Okay, if I can get a
Yeah.
motion.
Sorry, it's me again. So 29 is the earliest, or do we have anyone earlier than 29?
No, the 29th is our next meeting, Mr. Yo. Yeah, so nothing earlier than that. I apologize.
Happy. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Motion to continue this hearing until the 29th, 7 Cubs Path.
Through the chair,
Yes, Anna.
did we have any abutter comments?
Thank you, Anna. Any abutter comments or comments from the audience? Okay, motion to continue to the 29th, please.
This is Ed, so moved.
And the second,
Second,
and Melissa, we'll do the roll
Aye.
call. Janine,
aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim, and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, folks. All right, moving along to Boy Scout Troop 1, 45 East Street. This is a request for determination of applicability. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 8th at 7, virtually online. Hear all persons interested in request for determination of applicability filed by Boy Scout Troop 1 Hopkinton to construct a dock. The location 0 Clinton Street, which is the YMCA property. Assessors map R20 block 4 lot 0. Good evening, Mrs. Bograd.
Hello?
Do you want to give us an overview of the project, or would you like your Eagle Scout candidate to do that? Paul?
Paul, do you feel prepared to do it?
A scout is always prepared.
I can,
That's
I
the
can-
motto.
Yeah, it is. So the project is replacing a dock that is currently just destroyed. But what we are planning on doing is we're planning on taking steel pilings and putting them in for the posts, and then lifting up the already built platform and just laying it on top of the pilings.
Okay, so the pilings will be installed by a contractor, is that correct?
Yes, they'll be installed by Goliath Tech.
Okay, and those are augured into the bed of the lake
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
to approximately what depth, Paul?
I don't know the specific depth.
So it's below the ground freezing zone. Looks like maybe a foot below.
Yeah, it's up to Goliath to figure that out.
Okay. And there'll be 4 of these installed, the pilings?
There'll be
Six.
6 of them.
6, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then once the pilings are installed by Goliath, the scouts will come in and actually build the platform?
Yes.
And what will the platform be constructed of?
Just pressure treated wood.
Okay. Okay. I'll open it up. Joe, Melissa, excuse me, Joe, Kim, did you have any comments or
Yeah,
questions?
through the chair.
Yes. Kim.
I actually took this on to review myself. Commission waived the fees associated with it. So I just wanted to add that I have been out to the site and to take a look, and I've confirmed with the applicant that the access route to this location will be accessed via upland. So you can see on the provided maps, we're on the YMCA's property, and the location of this dock is a ponded area from Cold Spring Brook, kind of in the northwest of the property. Here's another view. So it can be accessed via the existing trail system that the YMCA maintains, and it would just be the Goliath equipment. And then I believe Chris wants to get his pickup truck back there. So we talked about kind of minimizing trips in and out and using the existing trail system, which they should be able to do. So the only impacts associated with this project are land underwater, obviously, for the piles. And the project qualifies as a limited project under the Wetlands Protection Act. It meets the qualifications as it will not obstruct flow, and it's going to maintain some light for vegetation. So my recommendation is an issuance. I do have some special conditions that I also recommend. So I would write up the permit for no machinery access to any resource areas. So the bank and the pond, the machine would need to use that arm to reach over. I would require that the Boy Scouts and or the contractor has a spill kit on site, just because of the proximity of the work to the pond. And then a special condition that any soils disturbed in the area should be stabilized with seeding and, a jute mat if necessary. And then in this case, we would also not be confirming the resource area boundaries.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay, questions or comments from commission members? That's a pretty old dock. Doesn't look very functional.
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes, Melissa.
What are you gonna do with the remains here of the dock? The old dock?
Tyler Reynolds, Outdoor Ed Director for the YMCA. We're gonna haul it off site. Well, further on site where we use for our other dumping that's away from the wetland area.
Okay.
So when we have that pickup truck back there, we'll be able to cut the pieces down to smaller sizes, then just in the same reverse trip, take it out in the truck.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments from commission members?
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I just want to mention that Karen, Chris, and the YMCA did a fantastic job filing a request for determination of applicability on their own, kind of taking on the initiative, figuring out how to file it and making a really outstanding application. So just wanted to applaud them for that and all their effort.
Absolutely. Thank you, because the majority of our applications that come in do not meet that bar. Would you agree, Kim?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So that's a job well done. Chris, congratulations. Okay, are there questions or comments from the audience? All right, if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination on the determination of applicability. And Kim, what were the special conditions? Again, if you can just kind of reiterate those for us, please.
Yep, so no machinery, spill kit on site, restore any disturbed areas close to the bank or the pond, and then we're just not going to confirm the resource areas here.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
With that, I'll second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right.
For the chair,
Yes, Anna.
that included a Kim signature vote, correct, guys?
Yes, it did. Absolutely. You didn't
Thank
hear me
you.
say that? You didn't hear
No,
me say that?
I must not have been paying attention. Thank you.
I thought it when I made the motion, so we're covered.
All right, thank you. Okay, good luck, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Greatly
Thank you very
appreciated.
much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Chris. And congratulations on your candidacy for Eagle Scout. So a very significant accomplishment for a young man. Okay. Hopkinton Stone and Garden, 28 Lumber Street. This is a notice of intent for a commercial building. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 7 o'clock, virtually online, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Hopkinton Stone and Garden to construct a commercial building with associated site work. The location is 28 Lumber Street, assessors map R23, block 67, lot 0.
Yes, good evening. This is Scott Goddard from Goddard Consulting. How is everyone this evening?
Good evening.
So I also have with me tonight Ryan Rosine from my office, as well as George Connors from Cornerstone Engineering. And I think I saw Doug DeWolf on the phone as well. Yes, I do see Doug. So Doug is the owner and applicant from Hopkinton Stone and Garden. As far as the presentation goes, there's a couple of options, I guess. I know you guys prefer to share your own screen rather than turn it over to control of the presenter. If you're able to turn it over to me, I do have a PowerPoint presentation I'd love to share and walk through. If you can't do that, I did email it to Kimberly. So it would be in Kimberly's email inbox if that's easier. If we're unable to do either of those, then that site plan that she put on the screen just now, we could work with that if we need to.
I think you can grab the screen, Scott.
Okay, let's do that then. Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay, perfect. So I trust you can see that.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So the site is a vacant lot, 28 Lumber Street in Hopkinton. It's very close to the existing Hopkinton Stone and Garden nursery property. If you go past all of the Mastriani properties that we've dealt with along Lumber Street, it's a bit further down on the right-hand side. It's a vacant lot. It's a lot that was before you with an ANRAD not all that long ago. And this site plan that we have up before us is probably just a decent plan for me to recap the substance of the ANRAD. It is a 3.4 acre vacant lot. R23 67 is the map and parcel number. We abut between Lumber Street and Route 495. Immediately to the north is the auto repair facility. To the south is landscaping company, and then Hopkinton Stone Garden beyond that. So the property is an interesting parcel. There's a major divide right through the center of the property here, where there's an elevated ridge line, where these tight contour lines that you see on the site plan here are an excavated face of a slope where the site was used as an excavation pit in years gone by. So the front of this property, basically from the center ridge line out to Lumber Street, is an old excavation hole. So it's sand and gravel material. It is very well drained. And in the prior excavation efforts, part of it involved getting at or near the groundwater table, causing the creation of what we would identify currently as a wetland resource area feature in the front of the property. So we have isolated land subject to flooding right at the toe of that slope. And interior to the extent of the isolated land subject to flooding is a smaller isolated vegetated wetland. The boundaries of those two were established in the ANRAD process. So the IVW was established based on soils, vegetation, signs of hydrology in the springtime during the high groundwater season, but because it's very well drained sandy material, it drains very fast after it has the presence of water. We evaluated it for vernal pool characteristics over multiple seasons, and your peer reviewer reviewed it as well. And because of the well-drained condition of it, it doesn't seem to hold those the requisite water for long enough to support breeding for amphibians. So it's more or less a groundwater intercept drained area that does meet the definition of an IVW, albeit from excavation. The ILSF extent is the 100-year extent around it, which is a calculated and observed by topography area. It extends beyond the IVW part of the delineation. In the rear of the site, once you get up on the ridge line, now we're at a much higher elevation, there's a BVW on the rear part of the property that more or less separates the elevated berm and Route 495. When you get out to that back side is when you start getting close to the rear property of Hopkinton Stone Garden, where there's nursery product kept. If you drive up 495 before you get off at the exit there, you can see the nursery stock, readily on the northbound side. So that's kind of the existing conditions that we're dealing with. We have a DEP file number for this application, which is 188-1812. DEP didn't offer many comments in the way of substance. There was some questions about whether or not we need a water quality certificate, and we can kind of deal with that as we go forward on this, more particularly with the DEP, but that's not something that necessarily bears on the Conservation Commission's decision with respect to this notice of intent. So long introduction. We have the existing conditions I already went through. They're going to go through the proposed conditions, the replication of our resource area, because we do have resource area impacts, stormwater design, and then open it for conversation. So I already went through this, but it's useful to see it on an aerial photograph. This is the adjacent landscaping yard to the south. To the west is portions of the Hopkinton Stone Garden nursery stock that I mentioned to you, partly on the subject site. To the north is the auto facility. That isolated depression is right in and around this area here. This is the cut line, as it were. And then the forested part in the middle here is the BVW that I mentioned. So it's been this condition for some time. We sort of date the borrow pit back to the 60s or 70s. This is just a kind of an aerial orientation of where we're at. Okay. This takes the site plan that I showed you at the very beginning and puts a little bit of kind of color to it. So the BVW is this blue hatched area on the left side of your screen. We have upland to the rear, which is the Hopkinton Stone Garden. This ridge line in the middle is an upland ridge, which is the cut line. The blue line outlines the limit of isolated land subject to flooding. That is the extent of flooding in a 100-year event. Some encroachment from the adjacent property down here on the south. And then the green hatched is the internal IVW, which seems to have an annual condition of some degree of springtime inundation. These show you pictures of what that isolated wetland looks like. You can see some of the stones are from the old borrow activities. We're surrounded by the fill piles. And then it's sort of an interesting wetland. There's very little vegetation to it. So it's largely barren, like what you see here and here. So it's not sort of a lush vegetated wetland condition. We call it a vegetated wetland because the only vegetation that's there is wet, like these red maple saplings and such that are surrounding, but it's not particularly vegetated in those areas. So that's sort of just an interesting point of note as we're walking through this. So here's what's proposed. We're proposing the construction of a new commercial medical office building, 2 stories, 5,000 square feet per floor. So the footprint is 5,000 square feet. It's zoned as a commercial property. And so we're looking to utilize the property in its zoned intention. In order to fit a appropriate size building of a modest size, holding the zoning setbacks to the front and having sufficient parking and travel around the building, we have encroached into that IVW/ILSF area to the rear. So the footprint of work is more or less this square shaped. So it's almost equally as deep as it is wide. We have a well-defined limit of work line that's, maybe 1/3 or maybe a little bit more of the site, was less than half of the site for sure, that we're developing. As far as the BVW goes, we're staying a good fair distance away from the naturally occurring BVW. And then we have this upland vegetated buffer, and then we have the IVW in here. So what we show is some portion of vegetated wetland disturbance of under 5,000 square feet or 4,000 and change. And then we are proposing to augment the existing slope cuts that are out there in order to create more wetlands so that we can replicate at a greater than 1-to-1 ratio. We're at about a 1.5-to-1. So what we've proposed for replication is to come in here in this back slope, pull the slope back, push the IVW a bit further to the rear, and then build up this. It's probably about a 1-to-1 steep slope in the rear. And then likewise pick up some replication here and here. These are all in fill piles existing out there. Simultaneous to the IVW alteration, we're proposing the alteration of isolated land subject to flooding, and have demonstrated that by the removal of the fill piles and cutting back the slopes. We have replicated that function of floodplain storage at a 1-to-1 ratio. So some of the other site constraints that drive the wetland impacts that are forcing this application before you is that we need to have an on-site septic system, which is what you see here in the front. So the septic system is situated as far from the wetland resource areas as possible. It's right up against the street. So we utilize the front portion of the site to get a septic system. We hold the zoning setbacks off the front, building right behind it, and then minimal parking around the perimeter. So the goal here was to kind of keep all the development tight up against Lumber Street, only work within areas of the site that have historical disturbance within them, manage the stormwater by the placement of subsurface infiltration, which takes up the least amount of surface area, because we can put the water under the parking lot. We have well-drained soils that we know out there that is borne true by the test pits. And then we have our various overflow structures with a discharge point here and here from treated stormwater. So that's our proposal in a nutshell. This graphic helps to demonstrate the cuts and fills that are proposed in the area. The hatched pink and green area is the wetland impact of 4,090 square feet. The replication areas for that are outlined in the dark blue. There's 3 separate spots. 1, this is the largest one, 2 here, and 3 here. So the total there is 6450, which puts us at 1.5 to 1, consistent with the requirements of your local bylaw and more stringent than state law. Under state law, we would only be dealing with the compensatory flood storage for isolated land subject to flooding. So the ILSF is, again, this outer light blue line, and the cuts and fills that are being used for the wetland replication and pushing the slopes back also serve the purpose of creating additional flood storage. Part of our replication plan includes a detailed construction sequencing document and methodology, means and methods of wetland replication. This is a graphic that goes along with it. Part of this project happened with the assistance of a wildlife habitat evaluation. It was important to note that we didn't have vernal pool characteristics, and also that we were lacking a lot of vegetated character to the wetlands. So we'll be able to add some interesting vegetation that is absent from the site as it sits today to introduce some wetland vegetation into this wetland system and into the site. So we think that the project is consistent with the rules and regulations under your bylaw. We recognize that this is a project that will probably require more than one public hearing. So we're not looking to close this stuff tonight or anything like that. The resource areas have been confirmed. We have full stormwater management, and George is on the call from Cornerstone if you want to have further details on the stormwater design. But the main principles I've already outlined, which is a subsurface drainage infiltration system, and that's the thrust of the project. So we will open it up for comments and questions and put it back to the board.
Okay, thank you, Scott. That was a very detailed presentation. We appreciate it. Graphics were well done. So thank you for that. So there was a wildlife habitat evaluation that was provided. Is that my understanding?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there an alternatives analysis submitted related to the project? I don't think I saw that in the file.
No, we did not include that. No.
Okay.
I mean, we sort of took the approach of start with a minimization level of effort on the project and propose a small and tight project, recognizing that there's encroachment, right? We could propose alternatives that would have greater alteration as sort of an interesting exercise, but I'm not sure that would bear a lot of fruit in this case.
Okay. Okay, Joe, you haven't had a chance to look at this yet, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Kim, did you have any preliminary, Kim hasn't had a chance to look at it at this point either in, sufficient detail, but Kim, did you have any kind of high level thoughts or comments at this point?
Sorry, my mute button moves when I'm not presenting. I submitted to the applicant at the time that the application was submitted to planning board, kind of a general comment. Basically, the applicant is going to need to overcome the assumptions in the bylaw that alteration to the different resource areas is not significant. They're going to need to overcome the presumption for the performance standards for each area impacted. And then, Jeff, as you had mentioned, our bylaw has a provision about alternatives. If there's an alternative that results in less impact then that is the bylaw compels the applicant to pursue that alternative. So I guess that would be kind of my two high level comments. And then actually the last one would be, and I'm sure that Scott's aware of this, but there are replication standards in our bylaw as well. So I would just point the applicant to those as well to make sure that the wetland replication meets all of the standards specified in our bylaw, which generally mirror the Massachusetts inland wetland replication guidelines.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Let me open up to questions or comments, preliminarily, obviously, since this is the first time we're seeing it from commission members.
Sure, I just have a question or a thought or two, Jeff.
Sure, Ted.
Scott, I notice along the southern edge, there are a number of places where you indicate stockpiles to be removed that are buffer zone incursions, yeah?
Stockpiles of existing fill piles, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think so. And I think on one of the satellite pictures, the one where you had the colorful trees, some of the trees are being planted on top of what the photo shows as stockpiles. True.
Let's go back here.
So right down in the very southern part there, that pretty, with all the dots.
Yes.
Not that one.
Are you want to keep going?
That
Oh, this-
one.
Yes, okay,
You
yes.
see how the very southern dots are on top of, I don't know what those are, but it doesn't look like nature. Down there at the very bottom of the picture.
So that is a butter encroachment. So there's a landscape yard over there. And a portion of their operation has encroached onto this parcel.
Right. And I think on the other plans, those are listed as stockpile.
Perhaps, yes.
So my comment, although I don't say it with full confidence, is whether we approve the proposed development or not, those stockpiles should move, shouldn't they? Being well within buffer zone areas?
Was that a question directed toward me or to your?
Or the commission or Kim,
Okay.
somebody.
So Ted, are you referring to the areas on the abutting property that are encroaching
I'm
onto?
referring to, it's on this property, if I'm reading the lines correctly, on the map, and we have stockpiles of stuff that are within the buffer zones. And I think you can see at the bottom of that photo there. And then if you,
It shows well in this picture here too.
right,
So you can see this zone down in here, which is activity that is attributed to the abutter that's has encroached
Right.
over time onto this.
so my question or comment, I'm not sure which one it is regardless of whether we approve this building or not, that should be moved away from the wetlands. Shouldn't it? I think Kim is nodding yes.
Yes.
I
Nodding
don't
yes, too.
think, Scott, that you're saying that's part of the mitigation, but they got to be pulled out of the way for mitigation. But I don't think that should be counted as a trade-off. Allow us to build into the IVW and we will remove the stockpiles. To me, that's not really a trade-off. Similarly, the stockpile in the far west, to the west of the other wetland there. I don't know because we don't have on a map very well where that stockpile is versus buffer zones, but I'm curious whether we are going within buffer zones with that stockpile as it sits right now.
So
And
those
if we
are that's a long-term part of a long-term nursery operation relative to Hopkinton Stone and Garden. I mean, yes, it's in the buffer zone, but it's also been there for a very long time. So I can look into the timing and dating of that, but that's an ongoing operation there.
Right, I just don't know if it should. Anyway, we're a long way from the other part of it, but I just wanted to note what was going along on the edge of the properties there, that maybe that's something to keep in mind as we have the bigger discussion.
Yeah, so just to reframe Ted's question, Scott, is the intent for the abutter incursion for that activity to be pulled back in that area restored?
Right, so yes, and as part of our application, that activity ceases to exist and becomes enveloped into our developed area and or restoration areas. Right, so as you get up in here, this will be part of the develop area. Over here, part of an upland restoration area. We call this out with an upland seed mix along this edge. And so this project does have the net result of pushing that encroachment off of this site.
But the far western one is not up for discussion right now.
We've made no proposals on that. And what I can do on that one is do a little homework to just identify the dates and timings of it to show that it's a grandfathered activity.
Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of buffer zone and wetland area that's been filled, understanding that this has been a long time gardening operation. Kim, are you aware of any filings where that has been permitted by the commission in the past?
I'm not. I can certainly look up the permits associated with these adjacent operations and figure out kind of where we're at with those. And then, we can, if we're going to pursue down the road of this permit, we can follow up as part of this permit. And then if for some reason this permit doesn't go forward, I can follow up with that, after the fact.
Okay.
I do want to mention, for the benefit of the applicant, I have not done a full comprehensive file review yet. I just did some basic file review, but in looking, I haven't been able to identify a historical case where this commission has approved the total amount of fill in vegetated wetland that is proposed at this site.
Okay, thank you, Kim. I guess, Kim, the other question is do we need to, there's stormwater infrastructure proposed here as part of the development. Do we need to have our consultant do a peer review of the calculations and design?
So Beta is looking at this, or at least has done one review. I'm not sure if this is through planning board, but I know that Beta is already hooked up with the planning board and doing a stormwater review. So
okay,
that
perfect.
will become available. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I would just like to interject one comment, and I appreciate the dialogue with the commission. So as far as sort of history and past practices of the commission, I understand what the question, Mr. Chairman, and Kim's comment, I do. What I would ask of the board and their peer reviewers as they're looking at this is, I think the way that your bylaw is written and intended is that it's very site-specific information, as opposed to, all wetlands are treated the same. We have a unique situation here. It's an old gravel borrow operation. We have an isolated wetland that has limited function for its wildlife habitat, limited vegetation. So it's a created situation. I understand it's still jurisdictional. I'm not trying to argue that it's not, but we're working with what we're dealt in this particular case, and trying to put something back that makes sense within the context of the bylaw. So I would ask for a site-specific review as we move forward on this.
Understood the request.
I have one other thing, Jeff.
Yes, Melissa.
I know one thing that we talk about too, a lot of times looking at sites, is the wetland replication area here. I know some of it is stockpile areas that look like they were filled versus treed areas that were cutting down trees and replacing it with wetlands. I always like to see more replication in areas that aren't, established forests that we're turning into wetlands. Prefer to see it in areas that are degraded and, we're improving it to wetland condition. I know that's site specific depending on the site, but that's something that I always like to look for if we're filling wetlands and replicating, trying not to, compromise forested areas for creating new wetlands.
Through
That's
the
a good
chair,
point.
this is Ed. We just want
Yes,
to
Ed.
echo, I just want to echo what Melissa said. And as I keep looking at this, I think to myself, what would happen if you turned the building 90 degrees? And I have no idea, but it just occurred to me that that might be something useful or not useful. Or of course, change the basic dimensions of the building if that might help. But that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments from commission members? As Kim likes to say, we have a lot to unpack here, so I think we need to, continue this out and take a closer look at it. So our next hearing is the 29th, but before we vote on the continuance, are there any questions or comments from the audience? If there is, I don't see any hands raised, but go ahead and. Okay. Motion to continue to August 29th, our next meeting, which is in person at the Hopkinton Senior Center.
Jeff, before we do that, I apologize. I think I had one extra thought, but maybe it was captured by what Melissa was saying. Just
Sure.
to,
Go
before
ahead,
we
Ted.
walk away.
Yeah.
I think, Melissa, you were talking about losing woodland trees by turning it into the replicated wetland. But that made me think about the loss of trees within buffer zones to build the building that I don't think there's a proposal to replace the buffer zone area trees to put in the building in the parking lot. And that to me it didn't occur to me at first, but it strikes me that might be worthy of discussion as well. That's it. And then I'm happy to make a motion to continue.
Yep, thank you, Ted. And I would just encourage the applicant to look at, LID, infrastructure, techniques, pervious pavement, rain gardens, all those great things that, progressive commissions like to see with new development. So just kind of keep that in mind as you, as this, as the design of the project kind of evolves here. Okay, so Ted made a motion. Is there a second? And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jeff is an aye, Jim.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along to continued hearings. Time we got 8:30. Okay. So Town of Hopkinton, Hayden Row continued out to the 29th. For those in the audience who were waiting on that filing, which moves us along to 4 Tiffany Trail. This is a continuation of a request for determination of applicability for geothermal wells.
Hi, this is Hannah from Dandelion Energy.
Hi, Hannah.
So how you guys all doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
So what we have here is the updated site plan. So one clarification on our end, when we went to go put in the 25-foot PIB boundary area, our designer realized that he had messed up the scaling on the project. So This currently is accurate and to scale. It puts our bores a little bit further away than what we had said in the previous meeting. Apparently, he had just crunched it a little bit too tightly. That being said, it has the suggested flag movement from last month's meeting. You can see the bright green line is the 25-foot buffer. We have green dots where we'd like to put the proposed PIBs. They mostly follow that contour, except the two in the middle, which follow the existing lawn for the property. And the homeowner, Mr. Chuck Wade, would like to discuss with the committee what would be an acceptable PIB boundary for his property. And here are some photos of the existing lawn for your reference.
So Hannah, were there proposed PIBs on that plan?
Yes, the circles, the green circles along that green line there are the proposed locations for the PIB. And
Okay,
it's one every 40 feet along that boundary.
okay, very good. In terms of what we look for the PIBs, we have medallions that we can recommend. They're about 4 inches in diameter, circular, just identifying, conservation area, no disturbance. They can either be affixed to a tree or to a stake, metal stake in the ground or post. Kim, did you want to elaborate on that?
No, I think you covered it. The commission has also accepted boulders, fencing. You could do granite posts. The commission likes to leave it up to the homeowner a little bit on what is, aesthetically pleasing and within budget, but still kind of meeting the intent of providing a visual barrier to, remind the homeowner, and possibly if the homeowner decides to sell in the future, to a future homeowner, to get them to kind of ask the question like, hey, why is this here?
All right, that sounds good. The other thing that we had talked about last meeting was the dewatering plan. In the original proposal, we had a small paragraph that just said, if we have excessive water, we would like to put it in silt bags. I unfortunately did not put it on the site plan here, but that would be to the west of the house. So, if you look at the north area in the corner, that's kind of, towards the bottom of that site figure while still being on the property there. We don't have a designated area set up for it, but the plan would be to put silt fencing around it in a sort of a half moon shape to protect anything from going downhill into that intermittent stream area.
So I'm sorry, Hannah, so what would the dewatering plan be?
So if you'll recall from the last meeting, we're proposing drilling with what's called a
diverter.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we encounter an issue where we have like an artesian well, where more water is coming out of the well than we're putting in, we'll have an excess of water. And even with that steel container, if that water overflows, then you can have a mess on your hands. So in that circumstance, what we would want to do and kind of have prepped in advance is to have an area with a silt bag, which is a very fine mesh bag that you pump water into. We'd pump the excess water to that bag, allow it to drain naturally back into the groundwater table, but it would be, again, on the west side of the house so as not to run into the wetland area while we, stop work and wait for everything to calm down.
Okay, so I think, if we can just have that location depicted on the plan. If there's silt fence down gradient, have the silt fence or the erosion control depicted on the plan, Kim, correct?
So the silt fence is shown here. I think what you're referring to is having a location for the silt bag, the dirt bag, right?
Correct.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, but I thought, so the location of this silt bag is going to be to the west of right?
Correct. It would be in between the bores and the water well.
Okay, so I guess we don't need additional silt fence then. If that, well, maybe we do.
I can certainly provide a figure that has that marked out specifically, so there's not additional questions,
Yeah.
you know, once we start work.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know what the grade is. It's hard to tell looking at this plan, but you know, if the water, you know, if the grade is, you know, kind of to the north, then we would need some silt fence established kind of to the west of room 1, you know, so that if it's running down towards the north, you know, it's gonna, nothing's gonna get down into the wetland area, right?
Correct.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim. Sorry.
I used dirt bags a lot when I was a contractor for National Grid, and my experience with them was always that they worked fantastically as long as they were observed and changed out when the silt became full. So assuming that you know, no dewatering will take place while it's not being observed, I think it'll work well as a solution.
Okay. Is that the case, Hannah? You know, the
That would
dewatering
be
will
the
be supervised?
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't be running the drill rig while we were dewatering.
Okay.
If I could comment, this is the homeowner, Chuck Wade.
Yes, Mr. Wade, go ahead.
This would be in our front yard. And just to clarify, the entire slope from north to south is heading downhill. And on the back side of our house, there is a slope toward the wetlands. The front side of the house is sloping toward the street. So the entire slope would be to the southwest for where the silt bags would be placed. They'd be placed on our yard is my understanding. And so all the drainage, there's no way that from the front yard you could drain toward the wetlands.
Okay, well, that's.
You'd be draining,
yeah.
if it drained anywhere, it'd be to our driveway or toward the street.
Okay, that
it's-
wasn't apparent just looking at the plan, so thanks for that clarification.
Yes, and it would be, technically, it would be the lower part of that drawing, west of the water well.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, and there's plenty of, that's the one area of lawn. I just, you know, to further clarify, in our 60,000 square foot plot, about 2/3 are mature forest, and only 1/3 is taken up with lawn and the building and driveway.
Got it. Okay, I'll open it up to questions from the commission members. I think this is pretty straightforward. Joe, did you have any additional questions, comments?
Just looking at my comments from the previous meeting. Just a couple of quick questions. Is there an erosion control ECB description or detail provided anywhere? And then my second question would be on the wetland flagging, and I know it looks like the distances have been revised with the scale revision. Is wetland flagging location shown here as flagged in the field? There was one location at flag number 11 where I had suggested it be revised because it might end up being within 18 feet of the proposed work, but it looks like now that would only be within maybe 36 feet of the proposed work. So I don't know that it's as critical, but I didn't know if those flags were revised at all. The locations on the plan were revised at all.
I sent the notes over to our designer, and I believe he did revise the flags on the site plan. But I can double check. That would be the only one that would have moved, is I think flag 11, maybe flag 10 as well, but I think those were the only two that we had questions about last time.
Yeah, so I think, you know, all the work is proposed in existing lawn area, correct, Hannah?
Yeah, the drilling and trenching will occur in the driveway. The silt fence will be along the edge of the driveway to prevent anything from going over into the backyard. And then the
Right.
dewatering bag would be in the existing lawn.
Okay, so previously disturbed. So I think we just make a notation, Kim, that we're not confirming the wetland boundary again on this project. And that takes care of that concern, Joe. I think, you know, the silt fence is depicted on the plan. I think for a project of this scale for a single family home, I'm comfortable with that, but Kim, does that sound okay to you?
It's okay. And, you know, for the benefit of the applicant, I can send them the
detail.
EPA figure detail, you know, guidance that I send out to applicants for installation of silt fence.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Kimberly.
If I could, to Kimberly, could I also get further clarification on what options we could use for the PIDs? That's on my back. And I really would like to avoid disruption to the mature forest, and digging holes and pouring concrete into them does not sound like the kind of thing I'd want to do in a mature forest. So if there are medallions or things of that nature, I would be very interested in learning about that and how we can apply them in a way that's effective.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just affix the little medallions to existing vegetation that's there so that it's not as disruptive. So I'll follow up with you on the medallions.
Okay, thank you.
okay, questions or comments from the audience? We just see anyone's hands raised. Okay. So if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability, Kim will file the, send the ECB detail to Mr. Wade, as well as work with him on the appropriate location of the medallions on the property. So if I can get that motion, please.
So
So
moved. Through the
uh,
chair
Yes, Kim.
with signatures.
Yep, thank you. And to
I
have
will
Kim's,
second Janine's motion.
okay, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed, Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, good luck, Mr. Wade, and that's awesome that you're doing geothermal.
Thank you. And if
Good luck.
anybody's interested in the experience, you feel free to call me. It's been a trip.
Absolutely. I might take a trip out there when they're putting the wells in, so I'll let you know.
You're all welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Have a
Okay.
great night.
You too. Thank you. Okay. Moving along, Toll Brothers. This is a continuation of a number of notices of intent for single-family homes. We have 9 Myrtle Ave, 7 Myrtle Ave, 11 Fitch Ave, 4 Myrtle Ave, and 13 Fitch Ave.
Thank you. Matt Ashley with Bowler here, the civil engineer for the development. Ted's here in the background somewhere from Toll Brothers, and Anne from LEC is here as well. So I was thinking that the best use of our time would be to run through the comment letter and run through those responses, and then walk through the plan updates afterwards based on the peer reviewers' comments along with the comments we got the last hearing, if that makes sense for everyone.
Yes, I think that makes sense. If we can keep it, you know, we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty details in the comments, Matt, but yeah, let's run through it.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I also did just want to mention that Lucas hasn't had the chance to review the comments yet.
Yeah, they were just submitted the past couple days, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so why don't you go through kind of high level, Matt, the responses to the comments.
That sounds
And
perfect.
okay, thank you.
So comment one was just some general observations by the peer reviewer. Primarily C and D were some suggestions to have the lot lines, buildings, and the flags to be reestablished. So the applicant has gone ahead and done that, or is just about currently done in the process of getting some updated buildings out there staked, which we can go into further detail. I'm just going to keep rolling through the comments. So if anyone wants to hit stop, I'm happy to talk about it further. Comment number 2 was adding the buffer percentage on each lot, buffer relative to the total lot area. So that's been updated and added to the plan, which we can look at when we get to the plans. Comment number 3 is relative to observation of some mature trees out on the properties. And Toll Brothers has gone out and reviewed all the trees that were 12 inches or larger within the buffers of each property, and reviewing those number of trees is committed to replicate those trees at a 1-to-1 ratio, minimum 3-inch caliper trees on each lot or throughout the subdivision where it makes sense. Comment number 4 was to depict the tree lines that and the clearing lines on each lot, and those have been added to the plans. Comment number 5 was about invasive species out there or vegetation. Though there weren't a lot out there, and it seemed to be mainly by Blueberry Lane, one of the entrances there. But Toll Brothers has committed to properly disposing of those any of those invasive vegetation, and wouldn't be transporting any soil from that area to the lots. Comment number 6 was to add the water and sewer lines to the plans, which those have been added. We can show those when we get to the plans. Comment number 7 was the PIBs, which I think we went over last time, but we just formally responded to these comments, and those are on the plans, which have been circulated. Comment number 8 was to add the date to the signature on the application, which we did. Comment number 9 was to include the notice of intent checklist, which we previously went through, and I think everyone agreed that it was we submitted all the appropriate materials, but just the formality of submitting that. So we included that checklist with this application. And then comment number 10 was just the erosion controls, and that if they're installed properly seem to be per or they agreed with what we proposed. So we just acknowledged that comment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. So, good. That's very helpful.
I think sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just so taking kind of a step back to talk about the stormwater. And I think there were a couple other lots that were approved by the Hopkinton DPW that are currently under contemplation at this point, correct?
I'm not sure the exact comment. I don't know, Ted, if you know that.
Sure, I think I can speak to it. I'm not sure that the Hopkinton DPW's input factors into our applications here. However, yeah, we do have comment from the previous DPW director that all lots are approved for septic, and that information is currently under review by the current DPW director.
Okay.
The question regarding the stormwater on site, and I was going to elaborate on this maybe a little bit more. We are contemplating updating the stormwater within the subdivision to today's standard. It is not a requirement of building the subdivision, but we understand that the town in general and both this commission and the planning board are desirous of that update. So we're investigating both the engineering aspect of it and the terms of how that would change the subdivision application itself, and whether we are required to adhere to all of the updated subdivision regulations. So that would be a major factor in whether we decide to move forward. So we are still trying to figure that out. I would say that my goal and part of what I said in the original presentation is that we are under due diligence on these lots. That due diligence time is rapidly expiring, and in fact expires before your next meeting. We have 2 lots in front of you, lots 14 and 15, that contractually are required to have Concom permits in order for us to close. So I would ask that, obviously this is, remains to be seen with what the commission deliberates, but ask that those are considered to be closed this evening, if possible. The other 3 have longer dates out in front of them, and we would ask that those be continued at the end of this meeting to further discuss and maybe get some answers on the stormwater updates across the site. The reason that the lots were separated was, we thought of the difficulty in approval of orders. The 2 lots, 14 and 15, seemed much more straightforward than the other 3, which have buildings either very close to or within the 100-foot buffer. So
lots
I hope that-
14 and 15, Ted, are those, is that 7 and 9 Myrtle Ave?
Matt, you can help me with that, but I think so. You're muted, Matt.
I think I'd learned that by now. Those are the ones, yep, correct, on the south side of Myrtle Avenue.
Okay. Okay. So, got it. So the intent is the DPW, the current director is looking at the additional lots at this point. It's at this point assumed that if they are built out, that they will be sewered, correct? They won't be on-site
Correct. And
septic.
I'd also point out that neither lots 14 nor 15 are the 4 lots that would not be sewered as part of their decision. So those are already approved sewered lots.
Got it. Okay, so the lots that are being contemplated beyond the 5 that are here currently before us, okay? That's what the DPW is looking at currently, correct?
Yes, my interpretation of this is that 16 lots are clear sewer approved lots, and 4 were approved after the fact through the previous DPW director, and those are the 4 that are being looked at.
Okay, so so got it. Okay, so the assumption from you at this point is those 4 additional lots are going to be sewered. At this point, you believe they qualify to be sewered based on what your understanding is. And that those will be those sewer extensions will be at some point, potentially approved by the DPW, correct?
I'd say verified by the DPW, but yes.
Verified, got it. Yes, thank you. Okay,
Through the chair,
yes, Kim.
just a follow-up question, just for our general understanding. Has Toll Brothers officially filed for a permit from the DPW, or do you intend to file for that permit for the sewer hookup from the DPW at some point in time soon?
I am not 100% up on my procedures as it relates to that, but from what I think I remember from all of those agreements is that the lots are approved subject to paying the fee and submitting application for those lots.
So you don't have any intention on actually submitting that application soon?
I
or
don't
would it
think
be
our
still-
intention would be to submit those until we went to build the building. I think that we would see those as, you know, customary approvals that we'd go through at the time of building permit,
Okay, thank you.
unless we heard otherwise from DPW.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ted. So Kim, I think, you know, a couple of the other requests that the commission had that I would consider, you know, kind of priorities would be, you know, as you had mentioned, Ted, you know, it's our desire that the stormwater standards be currently, you know, be current with current standards. So, you know, that's something that you're looking at. We think we talked about an invasive management plan for invasives at the site. And then, you know, kind of a summary of cumulative buffer zone impacts. But as we kind of progress here, I think that the intent is that those will be addressed, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Okay, so with regard to the approval tonight for 9 Myrtle Ave and 7 Myrtle Ave, I think I'm okay with that. Kim, we talked about both of those, and maybe Ted or Matt, you can kind of you know, if you can walk us through those two sites again and what the impacts are. And then I'll kind of let Kim jump in and give her commentary.
Absolutely. So we'll start with 14 here. So largely the same plan which we presented at the last hearing. The additions were the water and sewer line, which we showed connections out into Myrtle Street. Along with, we also, I think we presented it, but we submitted the plans with the buffer impact and the percentage associated with each lot on there. It's kind of highlighted in that yellow section. And then the other question that the commission had was about off-grading in that area in the buffer and if we could do anything with that. We went back and looked at the grading between the roadway and kind of where the house has to sit. And unfortunately, we have to grade through that area in order to make a proper connection with the topography out there from the roadway to the house.
So you weren't able to do anything with that one is in a nutshell what you're telling us?
Correct.
Okay. So, well, let me, Kim, before you jump in, why don't I just open it up to questions from commission members?
To the chair.
Oh, go, Ed, you go first. Well,
To the chair, this is Ed. Do I understand that the driveway is shown, whoops. So the driveway is shown as proposed stabilized construction entrance. Is that where the driveway is going to be?
That is correct.
And then that you need to grade, do I understand that you need to grade the area that's in the buffer zone?
Correct. Not relative to the driveway, but to the roadway. Sorry if I misspoke.
Why does that need to be graded? Why does that need to be cleared and graded? I don't understand.
So as the road was designed and previously approved at certain elevations to kind of make sense with the rest of the area, then there has to be off grading from that road to each side. And then where it makes sense to sit the house elevation wise and make a connection there, so there isn't any, weird drainage patterns, and we're consistent with what was looked at before. We just have to regrade through that area to be consistent and then also connect to the roadway at the elevation that it was set at.
I don't understand, but I'll leave with that for the moment.
Okay, Ted, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm misremembering, and I'm sorry, Janine, if I'm giving you an idea that wasn't yours. I seem to remember a discussion in that buffer zone front yard area that if it needs to be touched, that there might be a plan for fairly extensive tree planting in that area to replace what was there. This is not a landscape plan, it doesn't look like, but I'm curious if there can be an agreement about in the buffer zone area of the lawn that needs to be leveled, can we make maximum effort to re-tree those areas?
Yes, we can. I think one of the things that Matt responded to in the comment letter was a replication of the trees that are cut down, and I think that is a good area to place some of those trees.
Okay, thanks.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
Yeah, so I noted that the Bowler comment letter said one-to-one replacement of mature trees. I was just hoping for additional clarification on what's considered mature. I think that would help us all kind of understand.
So yeah, it was anything within the buffer that was 12 inches in diameter or greater out there.
Awesome, thank you.
And we did survey that and have a plan that can show you if you'll let us share. Matt, I think you have it, right?
I do, yep.
Yeah, so Ted, I think what you guys were proposing was a one-to-one replacement in the buffer zone of mature trees with 3-inch caliper trees. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Jeff, may I ask a question?
Yes, Ted.
And I don't know who it's directed to, whom it's directed. Is 12 inches a standard? In my work with the Zoning Advisory Committee, we are exploring tree protection. And we found that towns start their tree protection as early as 8 inches DPH. We are talking about 10 inches in what we're putting together. So I'm just curious about that 12-inch caliper. That seems a little large as what counts as, I mean, clearly 12 is mature. I don't know if a 10-inch or an 8-inch tree is also not mature. Where did the 12-inch come from? And is that a standard that we are forced to hold on to, or is that up for discussion?
I guess I can answer that. I believe, if I'm reading the comments from Bowler's response letter, it was one of the thresholds that Lucas provided when they commented on the existing tree cover there. So I think that's where we started.
Joe, do you have any thoughts, may I ask?
Yeah, I did note that there were a substantial number of mature red oaks, and I had noted many in the 12 to 30 inch DBH range on the site. I think 12 inches is reasonable, but I would also be, I think, somewhat smaller would also be reasonable if the commission wants to consider that. My primary concern out there was, with the vast majority of those trees being oaks, was the mast production and the loss of that. So it's going to take some time for the planted trees to replace that. And, an additional number or changing the size might help offset that somewhat. Certainly as those trees get larger, their mast crop increases significantly. So there would be a temporary loss of that with any planting, regardless of the size cutoff that is used.
Yeah, so Ted, to answer your question, I think it is a negotiation or a discussion, you know. I would, you know, if we're not going to decrease the DBH of the trees that are being removed, then we increase the caliper of the trees that are being planted. Right, so if we keep it at 12 inches, then I would throw out there, you know, maybe it's a 5-inch caliper tree that is replaced with instead of a 3-inch caliper.
Or perhaps a 1 point, I'm going to pick a random number, a 1.3 to 1 replacement instead of 1 to 1. I think is maybe another way to explore it too.
Yeah, at a 3-inch caliper, 12-inch 3-inch caliper replacement.
Right. I mean, I don't have the right answer to it. It just strikes me that putting the cutoff for mature tree at 12 seems like a pretty big number. A 10-inch DBH strikes me as a pretty mature tree. So one way or the other, I would love to explore a discussion about that. I know that the applicant is looking for a vote on these 2 lots tonight, and I don't know that I want this to slow it down, but it is a concern of mine.
I think we can vote on the 2 lots without coming to a conclusion on this tonight. Kim, is that a reasonable assumption?
It's reasonable to me. Obviously, it also needs to be reasonable to the commission.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
So if we allow this and we get these young trees planted, who's responsible for their survival, and what's the consequence if these 1 or more of these trees doesn't survive? And how long does that go on for?
The homeowner would be responsible once the developer is done with the development at the site.
So if the homeowner is responsible and the tree dies and the homeowner doesn't bother to replace it and doesn't want to replace it, what's the fallback?
Good question.
Is it not granting a COC? Is it the responsibility of whomever asked for the COC?
If it falls within the period that the tree dies before the COC is issued, then, you know, that could be addressed as part of the issuance of the COC. But if it happens after the COC is issued, then
right,
we don't really have, you know, much
Right.
recourse, right?
I think
But I was gonna say, I didn't mean to interrupt, you would just hope that the homeowner would see a dead tree and replace it. But maybe not.
through the chair, it seems to me one of the reasons we've often required a greater than 1-to-1 replacement is the assumption that some of the replacements aren't going to make it to maturity.
Correct. So I think we're not going to answer this tonight. This is something for Toll Brothers to consider and come back to us with. But I think you kind of get the direction that the commission is going. Ted, does that make sense? But it's not Ted, excuse me.
It does, and
Yeah.
you know, just to comment on what Ted said, I think that the greater quantity of replacement is preferable to greater diameter replacement, just purely from availability standpoint. But we will evaluate and we'll propose something at a future meeting.
Okay. Okay. questions or comments from other commission members at this point? Questions or comments from the audience?
Hi, this is Alex Scott, 15 Blueberry Lane.
Yes, good evening, sir.
So I just had a question about the two lots, 7 and 9 Myrtle Ave. Is the sewer line proposed to go under Myrtle Ave and stay under Myrtle Ave, or would it be cutting across other properties?
So the sewer isn't part of this particular application. It was part of the previous subdivision, and per those plans, I can kind of show you here. It's proposed to run down Myrtle Ave in front of this property here.
And all the way to Blueberry down Myrtle Ave?
So it does go down to Myrtle, and then it does take a left and kind of goes through this other property right over here as part of this plan, and then goes out to Blueberry further down.
So that would be through the easement between my house and my neighbor there.
13.
Yeah, 15 and 13.
So one of the, in the order of conditions, one of the items was that they would put in the drainage behind our houses before installing that sewer line. So we just wanted to like make sure that that was still in the plan.
Yes, so that would be a special condition in the order of conditions that that swale and drainage line that prevents the kind of the flooding on private property, that would be installed prior to any other site work that takes place in terms of single family home construction. And another special condition would be that the existing detention basins were restored to functional capacity before work was conducted as well.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
Yep, these items are actually already special conditions in the existing subdivision permit that the Concom issued in 2021. And if and when Toll Brothers purchases the development rights to this property, they then own that permit as well. So they're subject to those same conditions. And I've had meetings with the representatives on the call to reiterate that as well. So I think that they have an understanding about the order of operations that the commission expects.
Thank you for the clarification, Kim. That makes sense, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't sure if that was the case and if they were going to be cutting down trees on lot 52 in order to put in that line. And I know there are some very, very big trees back there that are keeping my backyard dry by sucking up a lot of water. So that was definitely a concern we had. And, I was even thinking as you guys were talking about it, what if it is a 30-inch tree? Is that replaced by more trees? I don't know. I guess that's neither here nor there, but certainly a concern cutting down those trees back there.
Okay. What questions or comments? Okay, so with regard to the two lots that Toll Brothers is seeking approval for tonight, which we discussed, which is HCC 43, HCC 44, 7 Myrtle Ave and 9 Myrtle Ave. Of course, approval tonight does not mean that they're going to be able to move forward with any kind of work on those until the other lots are approved. But is there a motion from the commission to approve the notice of intent for the single-family home at 9 Myrtle Ave.
So we're only talking about 9 right now.
Correct. We'll do them separately.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. When you mentioned both lots, I got a little nervous. I will make that motion.
Can I just
Uh,
clarify, Jeff, what you just said, though? If we approve them, I think they can be built without any approval of the other lots. Which is fine with me, but I don't know how approving these would be contingent on other lots.
I think you're right from a practical standpoint, Melissa, that, you know, they could develop the two. But I think Toll Brothers is looking at a kind of an all or nothing type scenario where if they can't get all the lots approved, then, and I don't want to speak for Toll Brothers, maybe Ted, you can kind of provide us some clarification on that.
Sure, I think that is likely the case, Jeff. I think there are options available that, you know, we could move forward on the subdivision, which is already approved through the commission, and these lots without the other 3. I think it's unlikely, but I wouldn't eliminate it from the realm of possibility.
Okay.
It could also be built by anyone that acquires the property other than Toll Brothers if we approve the notice of intent. I think, right?
Correct.
I mean, anyone, once we approve a notice of intent, it's good for the duration of the permit, whether it's Toll Brothers that builds it or they sell it to someone else picks it up and builds it. Once we approve a notice of intent for a site, it lives with the site. I believe.
That's correct. Kim, is that your understanding?
Yeah, that is how it works.
I'm okay with that. I just wanted to clarify.
And if I may, Jeff, that would mean we are approving the lots based on, going back to the tree discussion, the 12-inch caliper 1-to-1 replacement, because that's what's written down right now.
I think that's right, Ted.
Yes.
Unless the commission directed me to write something different in the permit, which I could do.
So can we, okay, Kim, to that point, can we put a special condition in? So how could we do this? So a special condition regarding the replacement of the mature trees. Can we put a, you know, based on agreement between commission staff and the developer? I mean, that's kind of a loose, that might be too loose, right? I mean, from a practical standpoint, how can we do this? I guess is,
Yeah, as your administrator, I'm starting to kind of feel like if re-treeing the buffer zone is important to the commission, then perhaps that's something that the commission should think about and make a determination that can be applied to all of these lots. And we might be running a little ahead of ourselves if it's something that is very important on this application.
Can I make a recommendation?
sure.
Ann Martin from LEC Environmental. Looking at the plan that Matt had put up that shows the trees on the lots that will be removed, excluding the ones that are within like the footprint of the roadway or whatever that's already been approved under the other order of conditions. I counted them up. There are 6 on the plan based on the surveyor locating 12-inch DBH or greater. You could just go ahead and say they have to replace for whatever, I have lot numbers instead of, so I'm talking about lot 14, which is, I'm not sure which address that is. I think that's 9 Myrtle, is that right?
That's correct.
So for 9 Myrtle, there were 6 trees, 1 oak, 1 maple, and 4 beech. So you could require that they replace 6 trees at a 1.3 to 1. I didn't do the math of what that was, but I can do it on a calculator. At least, and do the same for these 2 lots. And that would enable you to close the hearing now with at least that understanding on these 2 lots, realizing that the other 3 remain open.
So there was 6 on lot 14.
Which at 1.3, that's 7.8, so that's 8 trees. And I would advocate for going with the 1.3 for the 3-inch instead of the larger caliper trees. I know it's attractive to have a larger caliper tree, but in my understanding and what I've seen in some research I've done, the larger the caliper, the longer the tree actually goes into shock when you plant it. So the difference between 3 and 5 over like a 5 or 10 year period, you're going to get a lot more growth, and it's going to go through less stress if it's a 3-inch caliber versus a 5-inch. So I would advocate for the 1.3 with the 3-inch caliper versus like 1-to-1 at 5.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Ted.
I'll just point out, I picked 1.3 out of nowhere. If I'm thinking about this in particular lot, I think I'd prefer 1.5, especially if we're staying at 12-inch caliper. That was a random number. There was nothing behind it except for discussion. I threw a number out. But I would prefer
So for the
9 trees to 8,
Right.
or even 10 trees to 8, if we're doing it lot by lot. I just don't want that to be the number we're working with because I randomly threw it out.
Yeah, so why don't we do this for these? So how many trees are there? The 6 on lot 14. How many were there on the other lot?
On
And
15, I count 4.
all right, so for these 2 properties, for the purposes of moving this along and voting tonight, why don't we just do 2 to 1? So the 6 trees will be replaced with 12 trees at a 3-inch caliper. And the 4 trees will be replaced with 8 trees at a 3-inch caliper. Does that sound okay?
To me, Jeff, I'm happy with that, yes.
I mean, 3-inch caliper is a small tree.
Right.
So Ted, you know, if you want to get these approved tonight, does that sound reasonable, Matt?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And then for the other lots, you know, we can kind of revisit it as we go through those approvals. Is that sound okay with the commission members?
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
What trees are we talking about planting in place of these trees?
I would propose replacing with native oaks and maples, like red oak, pin oak, black oak. You could do red maple, you could do box elder.
It's fairly shallow groundwater, so probably maples would be more likely to survive, right? With shallow groundwater than.
Well,
I mean,
I was picking oaks and maples because that's what's out there.
yeah, I mean, we can have Ann and Kim, you know, kind of work through what's the appropriate species of trees to plant out there based on their expertise. I think for our, you know, kind of for the, you know, the process of moving this forward and voting on it, you know, I think it's the, you know, what the you know, the number of trees that we're replacing is kind of the key thing at this point, right? And we can defer to Kim's judgment on working with Ann on what the species is. Does that make sense, Ed?
Well, no, actually, I'm not enamored with the idea, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Is there
Yeah,
anyone else who,
I would suggest that you at least reference replace with native trees. I would include
yeah,
that. for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, obviously, it's native
Okay.
trees in the
Okay.
specific species, I think I'm comfortable with having you work with Kim on deciding what those are,
Okay.
the 3-inch caliper, the exact species, you can work with Kim on determining, and Joe.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes,
Yeah, I think Ann's suggestion for oaks and maples is good. I think oaks would be critical because that's, as far as habitat, wildlife habitat is providing a significant food source currently. So trying to replace those oaks would be good.
okay, all right,
Jeff, can I just add one more thing?
yes, Melissa, go ahead.
Can we just stipulate something about the tree being planted prior to, would it be planted prior to occupancy? So that we can deal with this and they're planted before the homeowner gets involved and starts arguing that they don't want trees in their front yard and near their house and of the species and yada, yada, yada.
If I may, I'm okay with that concept, except for if we had a closing in a non-planting season, like we closed in January. We could plant them.
I don't, this is getting to be, in my mind right now, this is just getting to be too convoluted. We're either gonna make a decision to go forward with it. Kim and Ann can work through kind of the details. I think, Melissa, that's a good point. Let's get the trees planted before, if we're gonna start talking about when they're planning in terms of occupancy and season and all that kind of BS. It's just too much to get these approved tonight. We're gonna have to kind of think about it. So that's my thoughts. We need to move along. It's 9:30, so. Ted, what do you want to do?
I agree, Jeff, that we can have Ann and Kim determine the details. I'm fine with that.
Kim, are you comfortable with that? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Is there anyone on the commission who's opposed?
No,
Depends what you mean by opposed.
Do you oppose it, Ed? You're either for it or you're oppose it.
When there's a vote whether to approve or disapprove this, I will vote no.
Okay. All right, so if I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for lot 14, 9 Myrtle Ave. With the conditions noted.
I'll make that motion.
And a
And a
Kim
sec-
signature, please.
And a
And
signature.
to have Kim sign on the members present. Is there a second?
You have a hand up.
Someone has their hand up.
Sam
Uh,
Sater.
Yes, Mr. Sater.
Just a question. What happens if, I guess I just because I'm not familiar with the process, the developer is saying that this is important that they get it done today. What happens if it doesn't get done today? What does it look like for the developer? What is the purpose of trying to push this through?
Ed, I'll let you answer that.
I had started this with the commission last meeting, saying that we are under due diligence of the property, and that due diligence expires prior to your next meeting. So without having the confidence that this commission might approve the proposal, that would influence our decision on whether to move forward with the project or not.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from the public before we move with the vote? So there's a motion, a second.
Hey, Jeff, this is Jim.
Yes,
Could you
Jim.
repeat the motion, please?
So a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for 9 Myrtle Ave, lot 14, with the special conditions discussed. And to have Kim sign on behalf of the members present.
Just that one lot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So there was a motion and a second, I believe, Anna, correct?
I don't believe there was a second because Melissa was calling out that we had a comment.
I'll second. Jim will second.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
No,
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. And we'll make the same motion for 7 Myrtle Ave, which, what lot is that one, Kim? I'm sorry. I don't have it on my,
15.
15, yeah.
15, yeah,
Uh,
lot. So lot
through the
15.
chair?
Yes,
Perhaps you just want to take a look at the site plan, have Matt run you through any changes on the
Please.
site plan quickly.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is right next to the lot we just looked at briefly. So fairly typical to lot 14 here, as discussed during the comment letter. Water and sewer lines have been depicted on the plans. Same comment for the grading off the roadway onto the lot applies. One additional comment that the commission did bring up was swapping the driveway. If you remember, this driveway was going through the buffer before. And so we went back and looked at it, and where it was able to swap it over to the other side. So now that driveway is outside of the buffer, connecting to the roadway that is in front of the property. Other than that, it's fairly typical to what you saw before, along with the additional area impact has been highlighted in here with the total amount as well.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Questions or comments from the commission?
I'll be quick, Jeff. I'm
Yeah.
happy that the driveway got moved. I'd repeat the request that when it comes time to replant, that special attention is paid to the buffer zone area, that they get an extra bit of tree love, as we saw in the last lot.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, so if I can have a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for lot 15, 7 Myrtle Ave with the same conditions that were specified for the previous lot 14. And to have
That's the
Kim
2 to
sign
1.
on Sorry,
Go
Ted.
ahead.
I just said that's the 2-to-1 tree replacement on. 12.
Correct, yeah,
That's right. I'll make that motion, including asking Kim to sign for us.
great. And a second,
I'll second.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
no,
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. So, okay, moving along. So for the remaining lots, if I can get a motion to continue those out to the next meeting, which is August 29th in person at the senior center. And that's for HCC 45, HCC 46, and HCC 47.
I'll make that motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
And the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving along to Rebel Hill LLC, 188 to 190 Fruit Street. This is a continuation of his notice of intent for 2 single-family houses. Do we have the developer or a consultant on the call?
Good evening, everyone. Nick Scully of VHB representing Rebel Hill. Also, Rick Valarelli is also on.
Okay. Good evening. All right, you want to give us a quick update on where we're at?
Sure. So we've been going back and forth. We actually, I guess I'll go back a little bit. We had our hearing at the planning board last night. We received some comments from Beta regarding the stormwater at the end of last week. Responded to those just before the hearing last night for planning board. So they didn't have a chance to sort of digest those. They continued us and want to know how conservation is going to vote on these, but also wait to hear back from Beta. We did have our site walk a few weeks ago with you guys and with the planning board, which I think went well. Good to see that. The only change on this plan was just if you just to the right of the basin, there's just a little swale to pick up. Kim, if you move your hand towards the bottom of the screen a little, it's a line that just shows a swale there, just to pick up some of the stormwater from the woods that are going to be remained, to keep that from, to just travel around that basin to keep any, litter from, ground debris, leaf litter out of that basin, and just to pick up, so the basin picks up mostly the site stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the only change to this plan. We're going back and forth. I think there's just one comment from Beta regarding the stormwater system and what we're using for our infiltration rates. I did respond today, and I did copy Kim on that as well. The system still works even if we use the infiltration rates that they're requesting for the NRCS and not the test bit info. So hopefully that's the last comment, but we're waiting for Beta's response on that piece.
Yep.
I think that's sort of the only update after our site walk. And I guess I did resubmit along with this plan, a plan that shows the new location for landscape debris on the golf course. And so that's in blue along sort of the right side. And then the red is there's a significant amount of earthwork here. And we do need an earthwork permit from the planning board. So they were curious, and a few folks on the walk had mentioned, where's that material going to go? And the golf course is looking at doing a number of mounds in front of this tee. So these locations are a good spot to bring that exported soil.
Okay, so it'll remain on site, or not on site, but at the golf course.
Correct.
Are you anticipating that all of the soil will be used on the golf course in those mounds, or some of it?
Any soil that's going to go off site will be used on the golf course. They won't be trucking it elsewhere.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so one of the comments that Beta had was, is there infiltration testing that has actually been done where the detention basins are currently proposed, which is no, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
we've done 8 test pits. The main basin is in the location of that stockpile, so that would need to go down, and there's a significant earthwork operation to get down to that basin bottom.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about it on the sidewalk. We could definitely do that once and if that earthwork operation starts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess, I wasn't able to make the site walk, but you know, in my view, you know, this is gonna be a challenging site. Gentlemen, you know, we're showing that there's poor infiltration. You know, there's significant earth removal that's gonna need to take place. The grading is fairly significant, you know, at this location. I mean, I guess we can wait to get Beta's comments back. I don't know. So where are we right now? So the planning board is waiting on, you know, on our decision. Is that correct?
That's what it sounded like last night. Obviously, they want to get Beta's updated response. But from what they had mentioned, they wanted to hold off and wait to vote until this commission votes.
Okay. All right, well, let me open it up, you know, Ted, Ed, and Jim, you were at the site walk with Kim and the consultants. Let me open it up to your comments and thoughts.
To the chair, this is Ed.
Yes.
Firstly, I thank all of those, including from the developer who showed up for the site walk. It was quite interesting and I think very worthwhile. As one who unfortunately has a lot of familiarity with sites that are on difficult terrains, going back to White Oak Estates nearly 40 years ago, and seeing what happened to what had been a vernal pool behind our house, which, oh, by the way, today was brown with silt. To me, if you're going to put a house here, the place to put it is where the waste pile is, which is already a trash pit. And you put a house there, and I could consider it, but right now, this to me is not a considerable proposal.
I guess, Jeff, I also appreciated the site walk. I appreciated the conversation. The proposed work is terrifying to me for what could happen with the weather that has become the norm. And I'm of the mind of Ed. I don't know for sure. I hadn't thought of where a home should be, but I think trying to fit 2 homes on this lot is a no-go for me. There may be a way to put 1 home that would require significantly less removal of soil, significantly less grading, more controllable situation. But I think that's where I am, and I, you know, that's where I am. I feel bad because I thought we had good conversation on the site walk, but I didn't walk away confident that this would be pulled off without significant issues arising.
Thank you, Ted.
Jeff, this is Jim.
Yep. Go ahead.
Can I hear from Kim first?
Kim, did you have any kind of commentary on the site walk?
I had the unique advantage of doing this site walk, you know, back 2 years ago when we were looking at the test pits. So I had the unique advantage of absorbing the landscape pile at that point. So luckily I wasn't too shocked at the new site visit. I appreciate, you know, the applicant coming out and showing us the site in person. The concerns that I had expressed previously throughout this process are kind of still in effect, and you know, is reflective of the concerns that the other commissioners were mentioning: the steep slopes, the poorly draining mapped soil types, the need for individual homeowners to maintain infiltration systems, and the need for a really, really robust erosion and sedimentation control soil management plan during construction. and quite frankly, aggressive micro phasing is what I'll call it. So those remain to be my concern. Obviously, the conversation that I've had with the applicant and his representatives is, I've been pushing for greater detail on the phasing and the SWIP, and a lot of these items, the standard answer is that the contractor is kind of, you run into means and methods. So those are primarily my concerns here.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And I think, recent history and, projects that have taken place in town, in the distant past. When you rely on the contractors to do the sequencing and the stormwater management and for them to plan it, it just doesn't work. That's not their priority. The contractor's priority is to come in, clear the site, get the work done, get in and out there as fast as they can. And, it just ends up being, not an ideal situation. So I'll say that. Secondly, when there is a significant amount of responsibility for homeowners to maintain, stormwater controls at the property, it just ain't gonna happen. Okay, it's a situation where when you're planning the project, it sounds great. We'll have the homeowners, they'll do this, every year, take care of it. The reality is the homeowner's not gonna do it. Or they may do it for a year or two and then it kind of, it's like anything else, it doesn't become a priority and kind of, just isn't taken care of properly. So I guess, guys, we'll leave those thoughts with you. It's a challenging site. So, we'll see what Beta comes back with, but I think that kind of provides you with some feedback. I don't know if Melissa, Janine, Ed, if you have any, additional comments.
I didn't know if you wanted to hear from Jim, who was.
Or Jim. Yeah, sorry, Jim. Not Ed, Jim. I meant Jim was, yeah. Sorry, Jim.
Well, I'll go in the meantime. So I was sorry to miss the site walk. So I apologize for not being there. I'm sure it would have been helpful, but like the others, I just think it's just too much in this space, and it's too challenging of a property for two houses.
Jeff, FYI, Jim seems to have dropped off the call. Hopefully he'll get back.
Yeah, I was just looking, Ted.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be in the waiting room. Okay. Melissa, any thoughts?
I mean, I share the same thoughts that everyone else has been based on experience. The slopes here are crazy. The soils are bad. It doesn't look good. Also, on the O&M plan, like you were saying, Jeff, I noticed it specifies that it's one O&M plan for entered into agreement by property owners at either property and shared responsibility. That doesn't, I share the same concerns as you, Jeff, on how that actually works out.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. So I don't see Jim. He hasn't joined us. Okay. So I don't know. That's kind of the, the temperature of the commission at this point. So we'll kind of leave it at that. Unless you folks develop the consultant and the developer has any comments.
I guess I'll just respond if if I may, to one or two of those.
Sure.
And then I think we just request a continuance and wait to hear from Beta.
Okay.
We did adjust the O&M plan, so although it's one O&M plan, it's going to go to both properties, and the systems are completely separate. So that was delineated in the most recent O&M update to have two separate maps and systems. So each homeowner is only dealing with the system on their parcel.
Okay.
Those systems, it's actually pretty low cost and effort to maintain those. I completely understand the sentiment from the commission there. So I guess I just wanted to clarify the O&M piece, and it's not a shared responsibility for those systems between the homeowners. Those are completely separate.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Nick. Okay, so our next meeting is August 29th. It's in person at the senior center. You want to continue it out to that date?
Please.
Okay, so if I get a motion to continue this hearing to the 29th
So moved.
and the second,
Second,
and the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Jim is not with us, and I'm an aye. Okay. All right, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, Laborers Training Trust Fund, 37 East Street. Mr. Connors, are you with us?
I'm here.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I have no file number at this time, but I would like to have to consider that indeed there's really two components to this revised gas line. The first component is the wooded section down from Maple Ave through the back of the property. As you can see on the left side of that, proposed gas line beside the well, it's nowhere near any jurisdictional wetlands. And then the other portion of it is what we call the campus proper, where it's within river zones. And you can see where the pond is in the middle there and the buildings surrounding it. All those areas that the gas line will go in to service those buildings is in existing driveways. Many of them are gravel driveways, some of them are paved driveways. And as they go into the individual buildings, they're in locations where presently there are other utilities going in, water and sewer coming out to a common leach field. So all of the sections of the, say, jurisdictional portions of the notice of intent application are in disturbed areas, and the P has adjudicatory decisions relative to disturbed areas are not redisturbed, to use a term. So we'd really like to be able to close this hearing, notwithstanding we don't have the file number. One other issue, I think Vito had indicated that you wanted to know if there was a wetlands within 100 feet of the location where we're leaving Front Street onto Maple, and they had gone out with the surveyors, and there are no wetlands within 100 feet of that connection. There was a last request, I believe, that we give you the complete file on the previous NOI and order of conditions for the file, the gas pipe coming in through the back of houses on Clinton Street and then into this area where the campus proper is. Again, we bifurcated those in our discussion in our documents. There's the wooded portion, and then there's the campus proper, and focusing on the fact that the campus proper is already disturbed. As you know, you've approved 4 orders and a bunch of utilities that go down those roads as well. We are anxious to get the gas pipeline in, and we are anxious to do that before winter. We have equipment that has to be retrofitted from either propane to natural gas in order to do that. And as you know, we are eliminating an awful lot of underground storage tanks that presently have fed several buildings out there. So in consideration of all that, I request that you consider closing the hearing, notwithstanding the absence of a file number. We had a request from Kim Roth at the DEP on Thursday night last week, which we responded to with all the former alternatives analysis information. And
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I
Ross.
think so, you know, the request that we made to Vito at the last meeting was, you know, the pieces of the document have been provided, but they've been piecemeal, and we haven't gotten a one complete package submitted for you know, for this alternative gas line alignment. You know, we asked Vito to provide that. I think the DEP's comments echo kind of the same thing, but you know, Kim reviewed those in more detail than I did, so I'll let Kim you know, provide her comments. But that was what we were looking for from Vito, you know, because we kind of needed the T's crossed and the I's dotted on the application, so that we have one complete application, you know, put together for this filing, which we don't have at this point. Kim, did you want to jump in and just provide, you know, additional detail for Mr. Connors?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
So I did receive an email from Mr. Connor's office and a hard copy package today, I think around 4 or 5 o'clock, of materials. So I'm assuming that that is their submission of the complete package. I obviously will take a look at it at some point this week when I get a chance and give feedback on that. But as far as I understand, and the commission can correct me if I'm wrong, the general temperature of the commission for this application is warmer. And, you know, we are thanking you for going out and finding, you know, another alternative for this project. That being said, like Jeff said, and like DEP has requested, we just need to make sure that we have a complete application and our files are complete should anyone ever, you know, appeal this application, should the commission issue it. That being said, because this application is already litigious, and also because DEP has recently reached out to all the commissions to remind us, I would feel extremely uncomfortable issuing the order, closing and issuing the order tonight without the DEP file number. It just starts a clock for the commission and kind of puts us into a corner. Like I said, and I think the commission can chime in here once we have the DEP file number, and just when I can verify that the application is complete. It does seem like the commission is feeling warmer about this application and that it might be headed towards an approval. But just from my perspective, I would really strongly encourage the commission just not to close for administrative purposes and to protect us legally until we have that DEP file number.
Thank you, Kim. So I echo what Kim had said, Mr. Connors. I appreciate the alternatives. This is a much better proposal. You know, I'm certainly in favor of this. And you know, we just need some administrative type things to be tied up.
So I guess I'm confused as to what the alternatives to this would be.
Well, the alternative to what was originally submitted. So this is the new alignment, right? That's been proposed.
Correct, which does not cross any wetlands. There's no
Right.
direct wetland impact.
Correct. So that, I think what Kim is saying is that, you know, the commission is much in a much better position to, and views this much more positively than what was previously submitted. Obviously, we're not taking a vote on it, but I think it's looking good for you guys from, my perspective.
Okay, but I guess I don't understand what is missing here as a regulatory. and
A complete
jurisdictional item.
application is missing.
Well, I don't understand. There is a complete application. It's a whole new filing. And the other filing that had been approved and then appealed has been put in abeyance pending this being approved. So I don't understand. This
So,
isn't impacting
a complete application may have been submitted by you guys, but we didn't receive it until today, so Kim hasn't had a chance
No,
to go
that's
through
not
it.
true. That's not true. That is.
Okay, well,
superfluous to
hold
this.
on a second, Mr. Connors. Okay, we don't have a DEP file number yet. That's number one. Okay. Number two is Kim has, we told Vito at the last meeting that we needed a complete application. And, we went through with him what we needed. You guys provided something to us today. Kim hasn't had a chance to look at that. So, there may in fact be a complete application that has been provided. We don't know. We can't make an assessment at this point.
Again, I'm not understanding what you think a complete application is relative to this particular application. It's my understanding from Mr. Colonna that you wanted the complete file for all the alternatives analysis on the previous location, which really is not germane to this. We're happy to provide it. It's, I don't know, 3 inches thick, I would guess. And for your record, we understood that you wanted that for whatever reason, but it's not germane to this particular notice of intent.
Through the
I don't
chair?
think That is.
Yes, Kim.
I think what is being referred to and what Kim Roth had asked for as well is that under 310 CMR 1058, the riverfront area regulations, impacts to riverfront area require that an alternatives analysis be submitted and that the applicant proves that they looked at other avenues which may be less impactful to riverfront area. To George's point, in the last application, the commission extensively looked at the work in the riverfront area that was on the campus and off the campus. So I think it's been discussed by the commission. It just wasn't included with the new application. And that is the missing piece for us and for DEP. Does that help clarify?
Yeah, and we did speak with Vito about that at the last meeting, right, Kim?
Yep. So again,
Okay.
it's just an administrative matter. I don't think that the commission is trying to insinuate that you should look at additional alternatives. I think that the commission feels like the alternatives have been fleshed out, but it's a matter of getting that all in the record of this current application because it's applicable under the riverfront area performance standards.
I'd like to respond to that yet further again.
Okay.
The DEP administrative law judge on Algonquin Gas in Weymouth decided in a case that any disturbance in a disturbed riverfront area does not constitute a new disturbance. So I had included that citation in our application on the first notice of intent relative to the campus proper area, which is again all disturbed. And you have looked at that on several orders of conditions for buildings and for water, sewer, electric, and I guess communications in those areas. So I don't believe under that case that a alternatives analysis is in fact required. And this really constitutes yet the ultimate alternatives analysis if you consider the project that was coming in, let's say, we'll call it behind Clinton Street. And then finally, with respect to starting the clock, it's my understanding from various DEP processes I've gone through over the last 50 some odd years, that we can give you a time abeyance, or if you close the hearing pending receipt of additional information. In this case, it would be the file number. That wouldn't affect your clock. Again, I would like to intimate that we really would like to get heat into these buildings as they are progressing. We've worked very, very hard with the town on all of this. And it's important to the laborers to see if they can get this thing underway. And with that, I'll shut up.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I mean, I can respond to that if you'd like me to.
Sure.
All right, so, Mr. Connors, I haven't looked into the case that you've been citing. I would need to contact, town council and engage them, and that would add additional weeks. What I simply would suggest is that you take the work that you had done previously and repaste it into another PDF that's compiled together in a package. That would probably be faster.
And that may have already been done, Kim, with this newest submittal, correct?
Yeah, it's
You
just that I
haven't
need
had a
to
chance
look at it. Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the DEP file number, it's something that we have really been burned on in the past. You can give the Conservation Commission an extension, but you're not obliged to. So again, it's not something that I would recommend in this case.
We are happy to give you an extension for that particular reason and see to that.
Well, I mean, we again, Mr. Connors, we just received the material today. Kim hasn't had a chance to look at it, so unfortunately, we just have to continue it out to the 29th.
Through the chair,
Yes, Ed.
is it possible to do this with a contingency basis or something of that sort?
I don't think so.
You know, my thought was if the needed material shy of the DEP is in the package that's in the office now, and then the DEP comes along in 5 days from now with what's needed from them, you know, it would just be shorter than waiting for our next meeting, that's all.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Yeah, to Kim's point, we've gotten burned on that in the past. You can grant us an extension, but you're not obliged to. So it's just, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but I don't know. I'll open up to other commission members for your thoughts. Melissa?
Yeah, my thought, Jeff, is mostly centered around the DEP number, because when that happened to us last year, I promised myself I would never let it happen again. So I think we could do contingent for the completed package per Kim's review to confirm it's completed, but the DEP file number was just based on our last experience. I don't think we can move forward without it.
Through the chair, what I was thinking, if we get the DEP file number between now, say it came in on Friday. Is that a way? I mean, I'm not talking about doing this with the assumption we're going to get it. I'm talking about if we got it before our next meeting.
Kim, would you be comfortable, if we vote contingent on the, approve, so we vote,
Through the
with the
chair,
so we vote with the condition that, if the DEP number comes in the next week, and the information is provided in the package that Mr. Connors has submitted, that, you know, we can file it.
I really don't even know if that's valid. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a shame that the Concom is getting this kind of pressure for an application that I think we feel good about, that is likely headed towards an approval anyways on the 29th. And we got
Yeah, I mean-
application materials today. It's something I really got to put my foot down. It's burned this commission in the past. It's burned me in Framingham in the past. This is how you end up in court.
Yeah, I agree, Kim. And Mr. Connors, I mean, we told Vito 3 weeks ago what we needed. And, you know, you guys submitted the package to us today. And to put us, you know, to kind of put us in this position to make a decision at the last minute, I mean, you know, it's unfair, I think. You know, honestly, I mean, you had 3 weeks.
I don't
it was
even see that
and
it's a
it was
decision.
administrative, so.
I don't even
Uh,
see that it's a decision and it's superfluous information, as I
Yeah,
indicated.
so, right, so why couldn't you have submitted that 2 weeks ago? I
Because
guess.
it was a long and tortured process with
Yes, it has
several
been for
different
you
filings-
and for us.
with several different filings that we had to pull together, all of which you have in your files from what we submitted during that initial process.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop there. We're just gonna have to continue it out. You know, I'm gonna heed to Kim's advice. You know, we've gotten burned. I don't want to have any legal issues, you know, with regard to this. I think this is something that, you know, in my opinion and Kim's opinion, is permittable. You know, I don't really see any kind of roadblocks that are gonna prevent it. I can't speak on behalf of the other members, but, you know, I think if the application that you provided to Kim is complete with the requested information, and we have the DEP number, you know, it's highly likely that'll be approved at the next meeting. So can I get a motion to continue this to the 29th, please?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
In a second,
This is Ed, I'll second.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Jim. I think Jim dropped off again, and
I
I'm an
still
aye.
don't see him in the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, I apologize, Mr. Connor, for the inconvenience, but, you know, we have to be cognizant of, you know, the situation we're in legally and, you know.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Yep. Good night. Okay,
Jeff, I'm sorry for interrupting you when you were asking Kim a question. I apologize.
oh, no problem, Ted, no worries. All right. Okay, last but not least, the trails. Kim, would you mind just bringing the photos up from the first violation a couple weeks ago? And then the photos from earlier today.
Yeah, just give me a minute to get through this file. Okay, so
I don't know if the other, you know, if all the commission members have had the benefit of seeing these.
this was 7/16. When was that? That was last week. 2 weeks ago. 2 Sundays ago. So these photos are courtesy of Melissa. This is the infiltration basin north of Weston Lane. So this one filled up with sediments, which overtopped into Wilson Street. You can see that here and here. This is the
2
outlet.
Sundays ago, so this is since our last meeting when we saw the initial
This
issues.
is the same photos since the last meeting.
Oh, these are
So
the
this
same
is-
ones. Okay.
Yep, this is the initial violation. Well, this is
Okay.
the second violation. So I issued a violation on the 10th for a smaller event.
Okay.
And then there was this violation. So this is the outlet to, there's a culvert and then it empties to the reservoir on the opposite side. So we have the turbid water, there's it discharging. And then this is coming off of the low point of phase 4 of the trails development. You can see there the turbid water, and then here it is kind of discharging. This is the level, not the level spreader, the riprap apron to the detention area. So that was the condition on the 17th. You can see the unsecured site. So today I went out and I will pull up some of these photos. I think Jeff took a better one of the road. So here's that same culvert. You can see sediment, water coming down the slope. So this is the wetland between the first phase of the project and the second phase of the project. So what happened today was that stormwater didn't make it into the newly constructed infiltration basin on site. It bypassed the basin, went out the side, and then there's a footpath that's in between the first 3 phases and the last phase. And so the flow jumped over the footpath and entered into the wetland system there. So you can see, this is like where you can kind of see where the turbid water is coming from here. So it's breaching the erosion controls and entering the wetland system in that location. So this is the basin, which did take some of the flow, but obviously a lot of it bypassed the basin. Here's the area where the bypass was occurring. It's basically the runoff from the top of the site. I actually had emailed Peter about a week ago. I went to do an inspection of the site to see how the progress was moving, and I let him know, hey, it looks like this specific area is going to exceed capacity and bypass the basin. And not sure that anything was done about that. So I was on site today. I called Peter when I was on site. We met on site for a brief moment. In terms of the last violation, I had prepared a fine memo,
Yeah,
a draft
we,
fine memo.
Yeah,
But
so
now we
the-
have an additional violation, so I'm not sure how the commission, would like to address that. So it seems like it needs to be updated.
yeah, so let's, that needs to be updated, Kim. So Mr. Gately, are you on the call?
It was earlier.
Yes, I am.
Um,
Unfortunately, my camera is not on, but
that's okay.
yes, I can hear you and I think you're hearing me now.
Yes, we can hear you. I mean, I really don't know what to say at this point. I mean, how does this happen again, sir? After everything we've been through over the past 3 years, okay? After we have told you before phase 2 started, what needed to be done in order to keep the site in compliance. I mean, I'm beside myself, really. I mean, how does this happen again, sir?
I'll let my engineer talk to you about that.
If your engineer is Peter Bemis, I'd rather
Yes.
not talk to Mr. Bemis because frankly, Well, I guess, Mr. Bemis, maybe you can answer the question. If you want to try to give it a shot.
Mr. Chairman, I have as much disappointment as you, but 2 weeks ago, when I met with Kim out there, we've been still trying to put the detention basin together. We did succeed in building that this past week. That was, we used what's called Pro Matrix as a
Well,
bonded fiber on the basin.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay,
Just to explain. what we've
because,
completed.
pardon me?
I was just trying to explain what we've completed, but we have failures in several areas on the site. No question.
Well, yes, that's obvious.
That's obvious, right? So I'm just saying what we've been able to accomplish is in that timeline. Was we did build the basin. It is in place now. And some of the water is not getting to it yet. We didn't get the drain put in yet. Because we had to stop because of the weather.
These are the same excuses that we heard in phase 1 of the project, Mr. Bemis. Okay, so, Mr. Gately, I'm gonna be frank here. I don't think engineering design consultants is capable of doing the engineering at the site. Okay, they've had 3 years. And we're experiencing the same problems. So I don't have confidence in engineering design consultants, the professional engineer who's signing off on these documents, who frankly, we've talked to once. Okay, and I don't think that Mr. Bemis understands the gravity of what's happening here. You're contaminating a public water supply. Okay, and it's been ongoing for 3 years. And as a commission, we want to know when it's going to stop. Okay, honestly, because this is embarrassing for us as a commission. And as I said, I'm beside myself. I mean, this is frankly, it's ridiculous. Okay, and I'll open it up to the other commission members to comment.
Through the chair,
Yes, Kim.
I want to ask Mr. Bemis what he would do if he was us. What can I do to help you better understand or help? Like, what is it going to take? Like, that's really what
The picture you're looking at here was a mitigation measure that we implemented, and we expanded it. And by expanding it, we moved its outfall further to the east. And that, as you saw it going down the road, this turbid water that's in it is from reconstruction in the back of those lots that I showed you today, Kim, that that area was stabilized. You can see all the plantings that were done there. And then those other lots were being reconstructed, and the water's coming off of the roofs that don't have roof drains. So that's where all that turbidity came from, was 2 yards. That needs to have sod in the back of that yard, and they put grass seed down.
Okay,
So
but you
that's the
didn't
answer to
answer,
that.
you're not answering Kim's question, Mr. Bemis.
I don't think the commission,
What would you
there's nothing
do?
more
What would you
cooperative
do?
that you
What
could
would
do.
you
I don't think
if
the
you
commission has
were,
been
what would
a
you do if
problem.
you, excuse me for a second.
Yes, sir.
What would you do if you were on the commission? Okay, if you were in opposition, and what can Kim do to help you? Okay? Because this can't continue to happen
I don't
for
disagree.
the next
Mr.
2
Chairman.
years.
You're not. We're working to stabilize that area where you can see the stump grindings and the tackifier and the bonded fiber that is down, and we're working to that end. And the rain has been relentless, and I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just saying why we're where we are. And this is the lower end of the site, and we will have more. We will do more tomorrow to correct this matter.
So,
The
the
contractor
chair-
wasn't there today to do anything because it's very little that can be done, but by disturbing more soil during the rain event.
Okay, well, why wasn't anything done when Kim sent you an email a week and a
No,
half
sir, but it
ago?
was that if you, Kim, can you pull back to the road? That was all reinforced there. All that trap rock.
Well,
was
it didn't
added to
work,
that area.
Mr. Bemis,
It
okay?
didn't
That's the
work. No, sir, it
point.
did not work. It did not work.
Okay, that's the point. Janine, I'm sorry to
not work.
interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm just, so, just through the chair, of all this area that we're seeing that is not stabilized, is this all part of phase 3 that was not supposed to be cleared? And if it is, why was this all cleared?
Yeah, phase 4 is what we're working on.
Sorry, phase 4, yes.
So, yeah, right, that's okay. The site, we had a series of mitigation measures along this straight path of the roadway to get to the detention basin. The site contractor has taken liberty with certain sections of this site, unbeknownst to us.
Again.
How can it be
So,
unbeknownst
Again,
to
it
you?
happened. Okay.
I mean, how can it be unbeknownst to you, Mr. Bemis?
Mr. Chairman, I am not the contractor. I explained this to Mr. Gately, and we're not here full-time as clerk of the works for this project. We do layout and we address items. We're the engineers. But I'm being put in the role of contractor. And it's been unfair. I've brought some things upon myself and regrettably to make some measures to improve situations that we were faced with. Because that Wilson Street area that you showed a picture of earlier, that was going to be a direct discharge to the edge of the road. And I wasn't going to implement it. In phase 4, we had a program. The contractor has done other work in that center island that was supposed to be left in its natural state to generate fill. And that's the circumstances that I'm finding ourselves dealing with. We have a lot more open ground than we had anticipated. And we're trying to address it, and it keeps raining. So I apologize for it. We're going to keep working towards it. That's all I
We
can
don't
say.
want
Mr. Gately can hire
apologies,
someone else.
Mr. Bemis, stop with the apologies, okay? It's unprofessional, number one, and it's disingenuous at this point. Okay, I don't want to hear apologies. You're not at the principal's office because you put a bullfrog in little Susie's lunchbox, okay? This is a serious situation. You're impacting a public
is.
water supply in another town. So I don't know what else we have to do to get it through to you and to Mr. Gately that this cannot continue to happen. Okay? It cannot continue to happen. So putting the wood chips in around the property is complete BS. When I look at that, it's laughable. So I don't know what, we're not going to drag this out, but you and Mr. Gately need to get together, put your heads together, figure out what you're going to do. And you need to come back to Kim and the commission and lay out a plan so that this does not happen again.
Okay.
I mean, you're making this, we had to go through this whole cease and desist with the previous phase of the project. Do you want to have to go through all that again?
No, sir.
I mean,
do not.
really?
I do not.
And we don't want to. Okay, this is too much. It's too much for Kim, all right? She's busy enough as it is with that to be dealing with this every day.
I agree.
All right, so that's my comment. If any of the other commission members have a comment at this point, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we're going to leave it at that. We expect you to come back with a plan at our August 29th meeting, which is in person, so that we're confident that this is not going to happen again. Kim, does that make sense to you?
It does, and I guess I would just add that the site is currently under a cease and desist with the exception of items related to erosion and sedimentation control and stormwater. And if the commission feels, if the commission would back me up, I'm inclined to not lift that cease and desist until I feel 100% confident that the site is under control.
Absolutely, Kim.
Through the chair, I would like to hear from Mr. Gately. I'm curious what responsibility he thinks he holds in this situation. Did that come over the airwaves?
Yes.
I feel like it's a bit of cowardice to be asked what your opinion is and then to say, let my engineer speak for me.
I mean, we're volunteers, and honestly, my blood pressure has been through the roof on this project. Okay, it is ridiculous.
Mr. Gately, are
And
you
I
there?
said I wasn't gonna say.
Yes, I'm here.
anything.
I'm here. I'm just
Could you
listening
an-
to you guys rant, that's all.
Could you answer my question? What responsibility do you have in what's going on out there?
I think it's pretty obvious. I'm the applicant.
Then why are you not responding to our questions?
And, you know, I'm a little taken back by rant. We're not ranting here, Mr. Gately. I mean, this is, again, this is very serious. This has been going on for 3 years, 3+ years, impacting a public water supply. So, you know,
I have another question, but I fear I'm going to be met with silence. Is it cheaper? Is it a cheaper business model to go about business the way this development has happened and absorb the fines than doing it properly? Do you save money by doing this project the way it's been done and deal with, oh, $36,000? It seems to me if these houses are selling for what they're going to sell for, it may simply be a business decision on your part, Mr. Gately, to say, let's produce this the cheapest way we can, and we'll absorb $36,000 fines every few months as part of a business expense. Is it possible that that's what's going on?
No, that's just, no, I don't. I reject that completely.
Then please tell us what your point of view is. Why is this happening? Did you hire the wrong people?
Listen, this is all kind of, I know you're telling me that this has been going on for 3 years. I'm not getting much credit for all the mitigation work that we have done. I'm certainly not happy that we're in the place that we are, but
I think.
so no, you're totally off base, totally off base.
I completely disagree with that. I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
we gave you folks.
Yeah, no,
plenty of
you're totally
credit.
off base with these comments, and I
Okay.
really haven't had a chance to talk to Peter about this since this morning, but I certainly will. And
Just to add, we didn't have a detention basin, the first violation, no question. We've been trying to build it. The rains were giving us some problems. We didn't get it built. It's there now. I think we can get a lot more accomplished now that we have something to work around. We just got to get the ground stabilized. We have no grass growing anywhere on the site. And we have the loam in place. We did shoot it. The hydro seeding company is coming back to shoot it again. Because we need to get it growing. So there are action items. I'll give Kim a list and we'll hopefully have something better to report when we see you in a couple of weeks.
I hope so, because this is sounding a lot like the same things we heard in the previous phase of the project, but okay. All right.
Thank you.
I
It's
have
late.
one question, Jeff.
Yes, Melissa,
Is
sorry.
this a different contractor?
No, it is not, Melissa.
It's the same contractor.
It is.
It's the contractor.
It's Bella Construction.
So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So,
Chairman, I understand.
so, let's get this under control once again. And we'll regroup in 2 weeks and, if you and Mr. Gately can get together and come up with a plan that you can present to us so that we can be assured that this isn't going to happen again. That would be appreciated by the commission and the
Through the
town of
chair.
Ashland, by the way. Yes, Kim.
I just don't want Mr. Gately or Mr. Bemis to feel like they can't do things to mitigate the situation without the commission's express blessing until the 29th.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Kim, I will be communicating with you, and but this drainage that has to be put in place in order for this to mitigate the problem. That work was ongoing. We got done what we could get done. And then we're faced with the rain again. So.
That's
so
inevitable. I mean, that's going to keep happening, Mr.
It is.
Bemis. So, you just.
Yep. We'll work around it.
And, I will say, anything with regard to this project, when in doubt, give Kim a shout, okay? Don't leave anything, if you have to call it every day, then, it's unfair to Kim because she has a lot of other things on her plate right now. But, I'm just gonna say it one more time, this can't continue to happen.
Understood. Kim and I had that conversation today, so I understand. Thank you.
Okay,
All right. Good evening.
all right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Jim, were there any, so the 128 Hayward COC, we already talked about that, right?
Correct. Yep.
I think that covers everything then, right?
I had one more comment for the benefit of the commission. So I'm not sure if we talked about this yet, but I just wanted to let the commission know that Beta is no longer going to be the peer reviewer for the planning board and the land use department in general. They're going to stay on for their existing sites like Trails and Turkey Ridge, but they're not going to be doing new contracts. The land use department has contracted with 2 out of 3 selected firms so far. I'm working on the 3rd contract for, an alternative peer reviewer. So you may see very soon different firms representing the town. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Thank you, Kim.
And do we know why?
I know Phil Paradis is our primary reviewer at Beta, and we very much enjoyed working with him. But the information that he's given us is that they are just overwhelmed with work, and that they felt like they couldn't give the town the attention that we deserved.
Okay. All right, Kim. I think that concludes all the agenda items.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a long meeting tonight, and, apologies for the kind of, I don't want to say negativity with the meeting, but it just seems like there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, so there's a motion to adjourn.
Happy to make that motion.
Okay, second, please,
Second.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Hi.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Night.
Good night. Good night, Joe.